You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Good afternoon, Steeler Nation, and welcome back inside the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona for our final day of league meetings coverage here on The Drive. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson with you. It's another bonus 3-hour show, and we are off and running, Matt.
We're rolling. Morning's starting great.
We are on Cloud 9 right now for a trio of different reasons, okay?
So many.
First of all,
I don't know how you narrow it down to 3.
First of all, Mike McCarthy's breakfast this morning. We have the audio and all the good information and details from that we're going to actually play for you here in just a few minutes. You and I had a lovely time at the annual league owners meeting dinner last night. Some
pretty impressive affair.
Incredible food and who's who of the football world.
Yes.
And then we finally here this morning got our Nike swag bags, our giveaways. We got a bag from Nike. We got a bag from New Era. We got a bag from Fanatics. I got a couple NFL hoodies for my daughters.
Yeah.
We got probably $2,000 worth of merch stuff.
I mean, just getting it on the plane is going to be an adventure. You know, the puzzle pieces to build it. And we had a lovely breakfast. We get to do this show. Yep. I wouldn't narrow it down to 3.
No,
the weather's fine
right.
as could be. It's going to be a big Steeler day, starting with Coach McCarthy's breakfast. I mean, we got a lot more AFC and Steeler stuff to talk about. And then back on a plane tomorrow.
Exactly right. It all happens very fast, but it's been a lot of fun. And, yeah, that dinner last night was certainly something. By my estimation, 2 sushi stations, 2 steak stations.
Oh, yeah.
There was
with salmon in there.
Salmon and seafood and stuff, too. Then there was a burger truck. There was, what am I forgetting? Pasta station as well, too.
Yeah.
And about, I think 4 different open bars with a bunch of different crazy cocktails and fun drinks and all different
and kind
kinds
of a high-class band going.
A very classy band that was playing, with a really good lead singer. And it was a lot of fun last night. The NFL's Who's Who last night there at the annual league meeting owners dinner party.
Yeah, and kind of paint the scene. It's pretty cool. Like you go through the resort a little bit, and then you go and there's like a huge bar area with all kinds of water features, and that's like the lower level. And as the night went on, it seemed like a lot of the more recognizable folks were down there, just doing their own thing. I mean, no one's swinging from chandeliers or anything, but I mean, they're having a good time. And then, like you mentioned, you go up to the next level, and it's almost everything on the right is the same as everything on the left. Okay, like start with sushi, start with, like everything parallels each other. Big band in the middle, big area in the middle.
Like a big fancy wedding reception.
And then we went to the left, and we were calling that Kiddie Land because there was a lot of, like, things for kids. There were ponies over there.
Petting zoo.
That was crazy.
You could make friendship bracelets and selfie stations, all that different kind of stuff.
Yeah, and an amazing, where we spent some time, was this particular bar area. We're making smoked drinks. There was only 4 drinks to pick from. One was an espresso martini, which was not my bag. You were doing some sort of tequila smoked something or other.
It was basically a smoked watermelon margarita. It was as refreshing of a drink as you could imagine. Yeah.
And we were doing like smoked Manhattans, and it was great. And I didn't realize till the end you got to pick which wood they would smoke with. Did you catch that?
Was it cherry or
something
mesquite,
else?
I
Yeah.
think. Yes.
I'm not sure I could tell the difference, but hey, they were going down good, and we had a good time.
They sure did. We got some customized bag tags that the NFL gave out too. I got to talk with, maybe if you list the distinguished WVU alumni. Of
course, your bag tag says WVU on it.
Well, that's my initials. What do you want me to do about it? I think I slot in maybe at number 2, right behind this Pat McAfee guy. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he hosts a national show on ESPN.
Yeah, you went and chatted with him a little bit, right?
Talked to McAfee a little bit. We've got a bunch of mutual connections. He's been on the WVU show that I do a few times. I do a show with one of his former teammates, Owen Schmidt, who played in the NFL for a few years for the Eagles and the Seahawks and the Raiders.
They were teammates, you said, right?
They were teammates at WVU, yeah. So that was fun.
Owen had to be a heck of a teammate. I just remember him as a draft prospect because he was like a 265 Patrick Ricard fullback type dude.
Absolutely mashing face masks. So we got to hang out with some of our friends in the Pittsburgh media. We got to hang out with some people in the national media. An incredible dinner, a really cool sight to see, and then today kind of being the cherry on top of all this,
This will be our last show from here, but
and our last show from here. So here's what we're going to do, because we've got a beefy Mike McCarthy media availability from the head coach's breakfast this morning to play for you on the other side. So we're going to take a shorter first segment here so we have time to listen to that in its entirety and react to it on the back end. Just getting started here on this Tuesday, our final day of coverage here in Arizona for the NFL Annual League meetings. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
What's up, NFL fans? The NFL Draft is finally here. And while you might not know who your team is drafting this year, you do know your watch party's number one pick, Bud Light. The clean, crisp taste that has all the scouts talking. Guess that's why it's been the group's go-to draft beer season after season. Be sure to order a round for the table before your team's on the clock. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the Black and Gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Back inside the Biltmore here in Arizona. It is our final day of league meeting coverage here on Steelers Nation Radio, the Steelers Audio Network. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson with you. It's another bonus 3-hour edition of The Drive. And, of course, today the AFC head coaches having their media availability breakfast. Matt was making the funny joke about how they kind of battle out the AFC and the NFC coaches who gets to have it on Monday versus Tuesday.
You'd much rather do Monday after the party last night.
Because no one wants to do it after the party last night.
And it's early.
But it was the AFC.
You had a great point, though. Like, the Super Bowl champ got Monday this year. I wonder if that's always a thing.
It should be like the Major League Baseball All-Star game.
Yeah.
Like
if
whoever wins the Super Bowl, their conference gets the Monday slot and the other gets the Tuesday slot.
But, there's 10 new head coaches this year, though.
A bunch of
someone like Harbaugh's like my side didn't win the Super Bowl, but I reap the benefits. I switched conference.
Lots of new head coaches this year across the league.
Yeah.
Plenty in the AFC North, 3 of them, and of course the most important one, our very own Mike McCarthy, who is doing this owners meeting for the first time, not for the first time for him, but the first time as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here's what he had to say at his availability this morning.
Good morning. Good. I was telling Bert this on the way over here. 2006 was my first time doing this, and the first question was about a veteran quarterback, whether he was going to come back or not. So it was a big deja vu. But no, it's going good. It's been very positive, and we'll just continue to talk. So we talk regularly.
Were you confident then, and are you the same level of confident now?
That's a great question. It was a different tone then because I was just a youngster, and the questions, your questions are a lot more, were very polite compared to the way the questions were asked back then. So, but I'm confident. But at the end of the day, it's a personal decision. So, I think we're in a good space.
Mike, you were kind of alluding to this yesterday. Depending on the city you're playing, cold weather Green Bay, cold weather Pittsburgh, as opposed to warm weather Dallas, is a type of quarterback bigger, stronger, more physical type of quarterback necessary? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I just think it's part of your preparation, and it's part of your it's part of your planning as far as what your system's going to look like. Because at the end of the day, the most important games are in December and January, and to be able to play in those games in an outdoor, it requires to play a certain way, and that was always evident in my time in Green Bay. And there's things that you do for the surface, the type of shoes you make sure your guys wear, all those little details. Those are the things that I think about. And even when we're talking about player profiles yesterday, I think that's where the discipline of trying to stay true to that type of player is important in the outdoor climates, in my opinion.
How similar do you anticipate your offense being in Pittsburgh to what you were doing in Green Bay, especially if Aaron does come back?
Similar as in, it's going to be the same offense structurally as far as the beliefs, the principles, the philosophical approach, the depth in the details. But, it's very important, in my opinion, systematically, if you draft a player that has unique talents and you say he doesn't fit my system, I've always felt that you got to take a look at your system. So we got to be able to have room. We got to have a big enough arrow so when Omar and the personnel, we sit in there and we decide, to draft these young men that we have a place, for them. Everything all right? You good? Okay. All right. That was funny. Is that? Oh, hey, priorities. I get it. I get it. Okay, where were we? Oh God. Yeah, fitness system. So be systematic with your players. So we all run similar plays. Concept teach. It's just how you coach them. The details. Certain receivers have different skill set to how they run an option route. So, you got to tie that option route to the quarterback's feet. So, all those things. We'll be probably closer to the offense in Dallas than probably what we did in Green Bay. For comparable.
Does that similarities and that kind of continuity at all help maybe give you a little bit more flexibility with Aaron's decision-making timeline, that he has some familiarity with those concepts in Green Bay?
Well, if he was sitting here, I think he would echo the same thing. The quarterback room's going to be coached the same way whether he's in there or he's not. It's, you coach to the lead player, because if you're going to build if you take the passing game, if you're truly going to be tied to the discipline and the footwork and the teachings of how that position plays and it's coordinated with the perimeter, they all have to be synchronized. So that part won't change, and so that's why. I mean, we're always looking to. I'd have 5 quarterbacks if you could, and I think it's something the league should consider. But I don't think you're going to have enough quarterbacks in your building to train. So it's the starting point of the offense, and that's the way it's always been, and that's the way we'll be in Pittsburgh. Uh-huh. Oh, definitely. I love the fact that their play styles emulate each other. So that's what I was real excited about with Rico, having to work with Rico. A big thing that I think is very important for running back. The first question I always ask in the evaluation process: can he play all three downs? Because we all want 4-down players. I mean, if you're looking to build a scope of particularly the running back position and linebacker positions, for value. But these guys both can play all 3 downs, and that's important. It's real important for a play caller, because you want to push the envelope, get in and out of personnel groups. You also want to be able to stay on the field, right? Go right from 2nd down to 3rd down, go right from 3rd down to 4th down, in no huddle type things. And so having backs that don't have to come out of the game on 3rd down, that's something that I put a lot of value in. And I feel that we got 2 guys we can just go play tomorrow with. And I'm excited about those guys.
Like you saw Jaquan Brisker at safety. Now you got 3 guys at safety who have big multiple things. How does that affect you? How do you see the versatility of all 3 guys?
Yeah, we're staying right down the same path. We're talking about player flexibility. It's really the first conversation I had with Jalen. Looking at our defense from the offensive perspective, whether you're a pass rusher or a dynamic, secondary player, if you can line up at safety, nickel, dime, and jump out the corner in a matchup situation, there's tremendous value in that. So, and that's why, Brisker, the ability to play multiple positions, and it's going to be the same way in the draft. We're having these same conversations because 17 games is real. 16 games is a long season. You remember when it went from 14 to 16. So position flex is critical, probably in the offensive line more than any position in football. I mean, I haven't had an offensive line. If you look at the statistic of the starts of the 5 same offensive linemen, the number of games they start and how it equates to winning, it's been going on in our league for decades. So player position flexibility is something that I put a lot of value in.
Like, what is the role of Brian Angelico? Would you call him plays? How do you guys marry your skills?
I mean, Angelico, Brian is an outstanding football coach. He's the offensive coordinator. Coordinating is probably the toughest job in the NFL. I think going along with the play calling. So to have someone that's like Brian that I'm aligned with, we worked together before. He's got a ton of experience. He's a great teacher. He's a glue guy. His knowledge base is as high as anybody you'd sit down and talk football with. He's been in different systems. So, I mean, he'll do the everyday coordinator things, and I'll do it alongside with him because we have to be connected. And so we spend a lot of time, we spend a lot of time talking after the fact, because he needs to keep, for instance, what I'm saying is we have a meeting schedule that's set, and then we start at 7:30 and the meeting goes, well, I may get pulled out of there, so my ability to jump in and out of there, he has to be able to keep going. So I've done this before, and so that's the way it works, and I just to think that for me to have the confidence I have in him in year one shows what I think of him, because normally that's something you evolve to.
Do you just enjoy calling plays? Do you ever think about just saying, somebody else do it, or is that something that you just really enjoy doing?
Oh man, way too many cameras for a fun answer here. No, I think calling plays, job responsibilities. It's everybody in coaching operations. We look at everybody that we bring into our building. Everybody has talents. Everybody has experience, and when you put it all together, in this particular responsibility, we feel it's the best thing for our football team. Yeah, I think it's unique in a number of ways. Because I've been in the league a long time. You have a lot of candidates. The Western Pennsylvania NFL connection is real. There's a lot of people that are disappointed that not having the opportunity to be with the Steelers. I clearly understand that. So that was a challenge. I've always looked at the hiring process. Diversity is something I've always had in the forefront of my mind, whether it's player, former player, non-former player, small college guy. I always wanted my staff to have a level of experience. Then I wanted like a middle class that can grow to that position, and I always wanted to develop young guys. I've always viewed the coaching staff very similar to the locker room. So I've always looked at that. If you look at the three staffs that I've hired in Green Bay, Dallas, and now Pittsburgh, you'll see the diversity in those staffs, because it's locker rooms. It's everybody talks about culture, and the needle of growth is something that NFL locker rooms are very unique, and I've always tried to emulate that in developing a coaching staff.
While you're talking about coaching staff, I'm curious, how much do you plan to be involved in all aspects, both sides of the ball, and how much will there be autonomy for Patrick Graham to take command of that side of the defense?
Yeah, just doing this for quite some time, and really my first experience where I felt I was able to get into the rhythm was with Dom Capers. We were together, I want to say 10 years in Green Bay, and Dom's an early morning guy, so we'd always have that block of time, from 5 a.m. to 6:15, and set his day and keep me in the loop of what's going on, and then also, at the end of the night, because it's off. You have to be, if you're going to call the plays, you got to be in the room, you got to be in the decision. I have to be in that quarterback room, and you can't be in all those places at once, and it's ridiculous to try. So, but I've known Patrick for quite some time. He knows how I feel about the history of this defense. I mean, this system's been Dom Capers, Bill Cowher put this system in 1992. Mike Tomlin's done a great job carrying it forward. So we're looking to build off of what's in place. We're not throwing away everything and starting over. So when our players get there, they'll see the variation that we're teaching and what the beliefs are.
Mike, a year removed from Dallas, how do you look back on your tenure there?
Great experience. I think just like anything, especially the last couple of days, the people, just some great people there. Really enjoyed working with them. It was Jerry. I got to see him on Sunday, so I miss him in a lot of ways. So he's. I think I've heard all the stories 10 times, so I think I'm good on the storytelling. But no, the family and just the way they treat the people working there. That's definitely something I miss. But I'm thankful for all my experiences. The start was wild. I mean, the pandemic year was something I look back on it. I felt like I could have did a better job. We just had a lot of balls in the air, But I thought once we got the program going, I thought we kind of hit our stride there in the second year, and I really liked the direction of the team. When I left there, I liked the draft classes that we put together. So I have nothing but great things to say about my experience in Dallas.
Mike, broader question, but you've been in this league a long time. When a team transitions from a 4-3 defense to a 3-4 defense, what does it take from a coaching standpoint, from training the players that have been there, and from getting the right people in there for the new
Well, the
players?
biggest thing is the profiles, and really today, it's not like you're playing a pure 3-4 or 4-3. It's more about which techniques you're living in. If you play the even techniques, are you going to play a flat stance? With your D lineman. So the body type's very important. You don't want to be playing flat stance with guys that don't have the length to do it. So that's where the profile part of it has been the biggest change. I went through that in Green Bay in 09 when we switched from the 4-3 or 08, I guess it was. 09. And so that's the part you have to get right.
Can you do it from a personnel standpoint in one off season, or does it take a couple of years to get the right profiles in there?
To be honest with you, it really depends what's available. I mean, you like to, and it's a couple position, but at the end of the day, I mean, the leagues is trending back more towards some more base defense, but it's still primarily a sub defense league, and and that's, as we know, is really primary 4-man fronts. So.
Mike, one of the guys that you retained on staff from Mike Tomlin's staff was Tom Arth. I know you have familiarity with him from Green Bay, but what is it that you like about him and the way that he works with the quarterbacks?
Tom made such an impression on me in his short time in Green Bay. Him and Aaron, that was when you were still able to have the quarterback school where you'd start in the middle of March, and he was awesome. He was a sponge. No surprise at all that he went into coaching. I mean, he was a natural fit. So, I think what he's put together his career is exciting, and I think Tom has a tremendously bright future. So, he would have definitely been a candidate even if he wasn't already there. So I'm excited to be reconnected with Tom and looking forward to getting that quarterback room right and having him own it like I was given that chance a long time ago. So, yeah, Tom's an excellent coach. He's been a head coach. He's been out of football. I mean, he's got such a unique background. The only thing I don't like about him is from Cleveland. So, but we worked through that. So.
How much does it help a guy like Will Howard, a young guy, to have that continuity in the position coaches he develops?
Big time. I mean, that quarterback coach is so important. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers, and if you look at guys in their careers, great quarterbacks pretty much usually have a great relationship with their quarterback coach, particularly their first one. Those are foundation moments, foundation opportunities that Troy Aikman, I look at the way he still talks about North Turner, so I mean you see it over and over and over again. So and we'll have that with Tom.
Mike, at what point does timing become an issue with the Aaron Rodgers decision, and are you and he in relative agreement on that timing?
Yeah, I'm not going to really get into timelines. So we're in constant communication. Talked to him last night, so I mean, so we're in a good space, and we're just continue to work through it.
Did you tell him last night that you had 50 questions about him?
No, I didn't. He says hello. So.
Is he going to show up here and answer them for himself?
We're good. All right, we're good on the Aaron questions. Okay.
Now that you're a couple of months in, what is your sense of being able to build a championship contender? This team's been in a little bit of a rut, which is why you're in this position.
Well, I would say the team's in a rut. The team won the division last year, so it's a playoff football team. I viewed the team that way as a fan last year. I was able to sit back and I watched the Steelers, the Cowboys, and the Packers. So I tried to watch all three teams as a fan just because of the connection with the three teams. I thought they had some really good moments, and I was just talking to Nick Herbing about this. I really liked the vibe of the team coming down the stretch. I thought they were coming together, and he was telling me, but we were talking about the locker room. I said, I thought you guys really, were positioned to make a run, and that's just, we've seen it time and time again. If you can, play good football, and maybe your lows are not as too low and the ebb and flow of your team is consistent, you can hit that December stretch, you can go on a playoff run. So that's my opinion of last year. And you have changed. Yeah, now you turn the page. It's new coaching staff. It'll be a new system of operation. So it's important for us to connect. Winning's a huge part of the Pittsburgh Steelers culture. I'm bringing a winning process to Pittsburgh, and we plan on winning. So,
how involved or hands-on are you in the draft process, and has that increased as you become more established? And how different is it the three teams you?
It's been a challenge this year. I love it. I love that. This is, I'd say, the most involved of the three teams. It's been, I think that's just probably has gone with the arc of my career too. Green Bay was Ted was established general manager. I was a rookie, and so, but I loved our relationship and how we did personnel then. Ted's one thing with me was always, I'll never give you a player that you don't want, because it's not going to, there's just no sense in that. It was how he treated those moments. Dallas, the coaches were very involved. It was a very coach-friendly process there, and it's probably similar to Pittsburgh. I mean, our coaching staff's very involved in it, and it's been difficult, to be honest with you, because year one's year one. I mean, there's just so much to do. I'm an old school believer. You go back and we put page one of the playbook in. We talk about the huddle, put the ball in play, cadence. We don't just take the old playbook. I mean, it'd been very easy for me to just put the playbook on the middle of the table and say, this is what we're running. That's not what we did. I'm trying to keep some of the terminology for the offensive players. We've been able to do that for the defensive players because of the history of the defense. So we are trying to keep some things that work for us as a coaching staff that are in place there, and just try to keep the newness to a minimum. So and that's time consuming is my point. So the coaching staff they've been grinding. So this next month is going to be it's going to be a lot of fun. But we'll basically split our day between trying to get the players acclimated with our systems, and we'll be in the draft meetings, in the afternoons.
When you left Dallas,
where's that kind of lead David Johnson? How do you evaluate him?
Looking forward to working with those guys. It's particularly, I'm aware of their past experience, but I mean, this is like a Catholic operation. You got to say 3 Hail Marys, the priest bless, everybody's got a clean slate. So let's just get to work. I mean, you have to do that with young guys. So, I'm looking forward to, I understood what happened, with him on special teams, and so I've heard all that. But he's a young man that obviously, his draft value is, what do we think of him, and so I can't really answer until I get my hands on him, and but I'm going to challenge him to be a 3-down player, challenge him to be special teams player, and so all those things are part of being a young running back in this league, especially with the 2 guys in front of him.
Mike, I'm sorry. Yeah. Talk about the Bill Cowher, Don Capers blueprint. Where was it fairly identical, and where what you have seen maybe a little bit different?
Blueprint in?
I mean, you're talking about the 34 defense. You see
okay.
That,
Well, the base is the same. I mean, tight dog rush, or tight was it dog rush ones now, tight dog 10. So because cover 1 and cover 10s, there's a different variation. So, but it's the same call. And that was Dom's lead call for as long as I've known him. And Kevin Green, that's all he ever wanted to run. So so that base is still there. So when we put in the base defense, the tight front will go in first. The form of the under, will come off of that. So there'll be a very similar teaching progression of how things are put in. And Dom Capers is as detailed as a coach that I've ever worked with. I used to worry about our salary cap because Dom would spend so much money on highlighters. I was always worried about us going over the cap because he would our office supplies went through the roof. You know what I mean? So, but Dom was awesome to work with. So there'll be a lot of similarity, and it's really what TA did too. You could always see the blueprint of the past has always been here, in my opinion, competing against those guys.
Mike, you guys traded for Michael Pittman. How do you kind of envision he and DK working together, and what was it that you liked about him and admired?
Position flex. I do prefer the bigger targets. I think it's common sense. I mean, you look at completion percentage. You want your quarterback north of 70%. You want the ball distributed. You want 55. Combination of completions and rushes to be 55 plus a game. So those are things that I believe in of how you're going to play on offense, and that's why tight ends, big tight ends, the target. It's easier to throw these passes than the ones out there. So those are common sense practices that I keep in touch with, and so the bigger receivers, outdoor climate, the ability to be nasty in first and second down in a run game, because we sat through the meetings there with was that Sunday, and they talked about the big plays, the statistics. I don't know if everybody here you get copies of all that, but the big play numbers are down. So I mean, that's something as a coach you're always looking to try to enhance your big plays opportunities on first and second down. It obviously comes off of the run game. So bigger receivers definitely help in that area.
When you let the that's the opportunity to put big guys into there. What are the sort of things that you look for besides the physical traits? And maybe what are some things that you personally consider a red flag that scare you away from a guy when you're talking about culture fit?
Well, I mean, every place I've worked, whether it's whether it's an orange dot or EQ grade, your emotional quotient, ever how you look at that. Everybody has a history. And now with the age of the prospects coming in, you got more 24, 25, 26-year-olds. So there's more to look at. But yeah, you're looking for people that fit your culture, and that fit Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So that's definitely a big part of the conversation. So I've never really felt as a head coach of a football team that you never had enough talent. I mean, I've always feel that there's enough there. It's really the connection, the emotional connection. That's how you win championships. So you're definitely looking for quality people, without a doubt.
When you left Dallas, did you think you'd get another chance, or did you think that was it?
Yeah, I have confidence in my abilities, but I'm also realistic. Growing up, to sit here and say that I dreamt in my fifth grade diaries, I wrote down I wanted to be the head coach of 3 NFL teams. That's not true. But no, I've been super blessed for the people that I grew up around, starting with the way I was raised, the NFL coaches that I was able to train up, the University of Pittsburgh coaching staff that I was on. So, so I have a lot of confidence in my education and my experience through the league, and feel that, I would have a lot to offer to a club. But I'm also, I've been around the block a few times, and I'm very comfortable in my own skin. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I love being a full-time dad. I've been able to do it twice, 19 and this past year, and the year off was very, very rewarding for me. So, and that's why this opportunity, I mean, just the way it came about, I had to come back. I mean, if there's ever a no-brainer opportunity in my lifetime, this was it. And so, yeah, but definitely, I have a lot of confidence in my ability.
Why do you think the NFL skews toward young offensive coaches? And what do you think about someone like Monken getting his first chance at 60?
I can only go based off experience. Being a young offensive coach at a time, coming into the league and understanding, the way the league was trending. Our game's about trends. Playing in, coaching, scheme, health and safety. So I mean, So and now I've been able to interview in a number of places. I mean, everybody's looking for something different, and what I have learned is it's got to fit. So whether it's offense, defense, I still think people win. You win with people. I don't believe in he has to be that kind of guy. So guy could be a hell of an offensive coach, but he might not fit in one organization as good as he fits in another organization. I think that's real. and that's been my experience. That's my opinion.
Guys, 2 more here. We got to get them going.
You mentioned earlier that you kind of view coaching staff as
Yeah.
you want to grow young guys.
Yeah.
Brian Schottenheimer was a consultant.
Yeah.
I don't know if you call him a young coach, but just his growth. Is that kind of what you were talking about, and what's your relationship like with him?
Yeah, Brian. I would consider Brian just he needed just a reset that year as a consultant. I thought he was a tremendous asset for us. We had Ben McAdoo do it the year before, so to have that level of coach in that position was a true benefit, and I think he really enjoyed it. He enjoyed being on the defensive side of the ball, so it was an opportunity for him to look through that lens for a year, and he gave Dan Quinn great input. So it was awesome doing it, but he just needed a reset for his family, and frankly, I just went through the same thing in 19. I thought it was really good for him, personally, really good for his family, and look what it did. It springboarded him right back in as an offensive coordinator. I thought he did a great job for us, and so well deserving of his opportunity in Dallas. So, if there's ever been a guy that's ready, it's definitely Brian Schottenheimer.
Like you've talked on a number of instances about just what you like about Will Howard. Where will you need to develop the most to reach his full potential?
I think the biggest thing with Will, and it's probably consistent with young quarterbacks, they got to win from the pocket. At the end of the day, 9-10 games a year are going to come down to the 2-minute drill. That's what the stats tell you. That's the way we train. So his ability to win from the pocket, because I think he has everything else. People get caught up on what round he went in, but if I was drafting players that year, he wouldn't have been around in the 5th or 6th round. I valued him higher than that based off Kansas State, and man, I thought he jumped out of the TV set during the college playoffs. What is there not to like about the guy? So I think he's definitely a real prospect as a starting quarterback. I believe that when he came out. I don't, so you could talk about his throwing mote, you could talk about some things throwing the ball. I think there's a lot of growth with his feet. Like a lot of these guys that the challenge I see in college football is so scheme heavy, and they're running these quarterbacks, and their schemes are diverse. There's not a lot of training in the footwork. So throwing the ball, and you got the best guy that probably has ever done it in Aaron Rodgers. You look at the way Aaron throws. Just watch his feet. Watch the ground force, explosion that comes up through his feet, through his hips, into his throwing motion. So my point is there's room for development there. So I think there's a lot to work with Will. I'm excited to work with him.
So we just heard from Mike McCarthy, lengthy head coach's media availability today. It's almost like I don't want to say a breakfast setting because it's not like everyone's eating, but
but it's in the morning.
It's in the morning around breakfast time, and they all sit in a ballroom around big, circular tables, and everyone can kind of local media, national media get in there and ask a bunch of questions. And there is obviously a bunch that the Steelers head coach Mike McCarthy had to say there that we want to discuss further. And Matt, I think, of course, you have to start at the top with all the latest on Aaron Rodgers. Saying that he actually talked to him last night, that he's spoken with Aaron Rodgers, quote, every couple of days. They talk about life. They talk about football. They talk about what's going on at the facility. I quote, I would just say he's in a very positive space. We'll just continue to engage in our conversations. He was also asked about if he'd be comfortable with Aaron Rodgers missing OTAs, said he didn't want to get into any hypotheticals. Quote, I truly understand why you're asking the question. I'm just focused on my next conversation with him, end quote.
Yeah, and that all sound, again, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but that sure sounds like there's a really good chance Aaron Rodgers is going to be the starting quarterback. And the communication actually surprised me to that level. We don't need to narrow it down. We talk every 2 days or whatever, but obviously they're in pretty constant communication. And that's not even mentioning how often Tom Arth talks to him or Cam Hayward, even for that matter. They're friends. They could be talking about their kids or whatever, or Omar or whatever. I don't think they're running by personnel decisions. Like, do you approve of Michael Pittman, Aaron Rodgers? I don't think that kind of stuff's happening. But the constant communication, I thought, really stood out because there's obviously massive mutual interest here.
Totally. And that's where this all continues to go. It is, we're not going to get an answer until we get an answer, but all the tea leaves continue to come up that this is the future for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're a little distracted here because Emil from video just brought over a Gatorade can.
Yeah.
Canned Gatorade. That's
Look at this. I haven't seen one of these, I don't think, since I was like 10.
That's rare right there.
Yeah.
That's like pulling a Barry Bonds rookie card. That's the good stuff right there.
I'm going to have to try it. It's been a while.
I'm going to need a couple of those things. Gatorade out of a can is just hitting.
Might have to grab one for tomorrow morning too.
So that was the biggest, just in terms of the general conversation, Matt. But a couple things that also really stood out to me. Maybe the quote of the day.
Couple things did, yeah.
Quote of the day from Mike McCarthy. You got to love this when asked about Caleb Johnson, who we've had that conversation and how he fits into the Steelers running back room and how you attack that position group in the draft. Mike McCarthy on the Steelers running back who's heading into his sophomore season with a lot of question marks. Quote, I am aware of their past experiences, but this is like a Catholic operation. If you say 3 Hail Marys, everybody has a clean slate, and let's get to work, end quote.
Which I think is a great way to do it from a new staff. I mean, obviously the front office has what he put on tape or didn't put on tape is still out there. And you don't just throw away what you think of the player just because a new coaching staff comes in. If you question his pass blocking or his cutting ability or whatever, I mean, you still need to analyze the player as impartially as possible, without question. But you and I have been saying this for a while. I mean, really since the coaching hiring, that I feel like Roman Wilson and Caleb Johnson are not necessarily the happiest, but sort of the career-wise the happiest of – we can get some new eyes on us. And I don't think it was personal. We don't like these 2 draft picks or whatever. It's just, it didn't work out. They didn't live up to expectations yet. They're still young. And they get a kind of a new lease on life. And I'm glad McCarthy sees it that way.
And I'm glad you bring up Roman Wilson because McCarthy said that he recently had a great conversation with Roman Wilson saying, new system, fresh start. I'm hoping he's one of those guys that would benefit from it. I was impressed talking football with him. There's a lot of people that have a lot of love for him in the building.
Good. I mean, they're obviously going to continue to address that position, but to what degree might tell us a little bit about what they feel his chances of not necessarily even making the team, but being a real contributor are. I mean, do they envision him of maybe he is a number 3? Like, I definitely think they're going to take one in the top 2 rounds or very, very early. But is there at least a story they could tell that Wilson might be our 3? Is he competing with a 2nd-round pick and a 5th-round pick, and the 2 of them are going to
one's the 3 and one's the 4.
And battle it out, or situationally they'll be out there differently. Who knows?
He was also obviously asked about how they approach the quarterback position in the draft, and he said, I'm hopeful there will be a quarterback, at the right time there for us to probably add to our roster.
That was one of the things that really stood out to me.
And he said the other part of that is, okay, what's the ceiling, what's the floor? Sometimes I get excited about the floor. That kind of sounds like a mid-round quarterback a little bit to me, Matt Williamson.
Yeah. Again, I have mixed feelings if I think that's the right move or not. Sure. And I really could make equally strong cases if I was the prosecuting or defending attorney in terms of should they take a 3rd to 5th round quarterback. And obviously a lot of it has to do with who's available and who it is. You don't just take one to take one. But what stood out to me, what you didn't mention there, he said something along the lines of, I wish I had 5 quarterbacks in my quarterback room every year. I wish the NFL allowed that to happen. And it kind of dawned on me that would be probably good for the league, to be honest with you.
That's the development system that you talk about.
Yeah, right. Maybe they could make every team gets 4 quarterbacks no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody
roster
break the rules
or salary exemption or something.
Yeah. Like they just don't count against. You get a 50-man roster and 4 quarterbacks, something like that or whatever. And would that be so terrible? Have a guy hovering around for a year or 2 just under Rodgers and all the stuff he would learn?
Yeah.
I'm sure someone would cheat and put Taysom Hill in there and then make him into a tight end or something. But whatever, they can legislate that.
The last thing that
he's supposed to work with more and more young guys at that position, which
makes
is
sense.
Kind of his specialty,
And then the last thing, Matt, we got about, 2 or 3 minutes here till we got to go to break, but I wanted to make sure to mention this. He talked about one thing that really stood out to me. I put 2 stars next to this on my notepad here. He talked about how position flexibility is so critical for offensive line.
Yeah.
How often do you start and finish the year with the same 5 offensive linemen? It's rare. You got to move those guys around. You got to make it work on a week-to-week basis. That made my ears perk up because we've talked a lot about the Steelers' interest in one of those offensive linemen that has the potential to play guard and tackle.
Yes.
Some of these interior guys that can play all 3 positions, guard, center, guard. That made my ears perk up because I think that's an even now that just reinforces what we've talked about, a real option for the Steelers at 21, at 53, early in the draft, one of those offensive linemen with versatility and flexibility.
Yeah, and I don't want to look too much into it, but the only offensive line addition they made was Hoffman, right?
Yes.
And
he can
play all 3.
positions.
Yeah, right. It's not just because he played with McCarthy, in Dallas. I think that position flexibility is absolutely important in that conversation. As much as I like Ione from Penn State, that's my only thing I don't love about the situation is if you plug him in at guard, you'd probably never move him anyway.
Because he'd be so good.
Because, he's a guard and he's really good at it, so you wouldn't move him anyways. But it doesn't influence your left tackle problem at all or potential upcoming problem where some of these other guys, Proctor or ENH or whoever, have a
even
Fanu, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of those guys.
Have a more of a guard then maybe tackle path.
Yeah.
And that might be a tiebreaker for me, but
Maui Go is like that too. Now he's going to be drafted way out of the Steelers' range, but there's a lot of guys that fit that
mold, right?
Yeah.
And I like that better, but if he's a great guard and you never have to move him, that's a pretty good problem to have too. Don't get me wrong.
If he's Alan Faneca, you'll take it.
Yes. One other thing that did stand out to me, I know we're up against it, but every time I've heard him speak in a public setting, he's very appreciative and knowledgeable of those who came before him here. And obviously him and Tomlin overlapped as head coaches, and they had a relationship. But he even brought up
against each other in a Super Bowl.
Yeah. But he even brought up Austin and going back to Cower and Knoll. And and it's not just because he's from Pittsburgh. I'm sure that helps. But I think he realizes what was built here, and I'm going to keep it going. I'm not going to change the course of this train. We're not laying new tracks going the opposite direction.
As a guy who's been the steward of probably the 3 biggest NFL franchises in the Steelers, the Cowboys, and the Packers,
it's pretty crazy.
I think he gets how important that lineage and that history is when you're with organizations like that.
I got a kick out even when Rodgers signed. He talked about how obviously there was Jets in between, and he did mention them. He's like, now I've been a part of two of the big, people know that stuff, especially the older folks that have been on the league a long time and appreciate it. Yeah,
they sure do.
That's real.
So that's the Mike McCarthy hour here of the drive to get us started today. We still have 2 more hours to go. We're going to have some fun guests for you. We're going to get into some more draft conversation, and there is certainly some more national news. We kind of focused on the Steelers for the first hour there, but there were 15 other coaches, AFC coaches who spoke today, and some interesting stuff on that. Potential update on Patrick Mahomes and his health status, recovering from that knee injury. So we've got plenty to get to in the next 2 hours as we roll along here at the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona. It's our final day of league meeting coverage. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It's The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Hour number 2 of The Drive here on this Tuesday inside the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona. It is our final day of on-location shows here, about 2,000 miles from home for the NFL League Meetings 2026 edition. And joining us now, a familiar voice, a familiar name, of course, the co-host of the Steelers Blitz at noon on the Steelers Audio Network with our guy Tom Opperman. It is Chris Adamski, also covers the Steelers for the Trib. What's up, Buzz? How we doing? You enjoying this Arizona sunshine?
It's a dry heat, I hear, right? It's a dry heat here.
It makes sense, though. I finally get it. Matt and I were talking about this morning.
The Uber driver today,
90 degrees here doesn't feel like 90 degrees.
You're right. Exactly right. It's become a cliche, like a joke, but it's actually true. Like, you come here, it was like 92 or something yesterday, right?
Yep.
It was warm, but it didn't feel like 92 in Pittsburgh is a different 92.
Exactly right.
Our Uber driver was asking us where we're from. You're from Pittsburgh. He's like, yeah, I'm going up there in August. And he was all worried about it. He's like, what's the
guy lives in Arizona?
Like it's super humid up there.
Right, like what's the humidity like up there? I'm like,
it's not like Georgia and Florida and what you hear about the South. But yeah, I love this weather out here. Now I'm sure it's much different in June and July and August when it's 115 degrees outside. But man, I can't imagine many places with better weather in March than here in Arizona. Certainly, it's been a welcome development after the winter that we had back home. Chris Adamski, any difference in so you were at the Mike McCarthy breakfast this morning. You've been boots on the ground here for about 24 hours now. Do you feel any differently about Aaron Rodgers today than you did maybe 24 hours ago or before you got to Arizona? Where are you at in this whole ongoing conversation?
I'd say it's more just a reaffirmation, more so. I probably felt that. I was going to say I do, yes, probably feel more confident that Aaron Rodgers will be here or be with the Steelers here at some point. But I probably felt that 2 days ago too. So I don't know how much it could have been more but I guess reinforced. I guess is probably the proper way to look at it. And
been a lot of communication. It sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't think. I know they have a human relationship, not a coach, and they've known each other for 20 years or whatever. But I don't think they'd be talking to each other on the phone every other day, as Mike McCarthy's acknowledging over and over again that they talked last night after all the meetings and everything yesterday. So I don't think you're doing that. I don't think they did
that last year or the year before.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So there's obviously a purpose to it. I don't think they're breaking down what they're going to do on the 2nd and 3 and in the first quarter of a game. But I do think they're he said he's involved. What was the word he used? Immersed in what's going on in the off season. He's keeping them. So there's definitely a degree of keeping things, communication there, keeping them posted where they're at with everything. And I don't think it's ironclad. I don't think it's like there's a thought outside that there's this some submersive, like, oh, he's definitely coming, we're not going to tell anybody. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's like, okay, keep this quiet. But I do think there's a general feeling that this is going to happen here at some point.
Yeah, and one thing Wes pointed out from that interview, too, we just replayed it last hour, was he mentioned versatility amongst his offensive linemen. And we noted that Hoffman's the only guy that they've added from outside the organization. He can play all 3 interior spots. I certainly think there's a really good chance, maybe even in round 1, that they invest in a big-time prospect on the O-line, someone to play on the left side. But do you think versatility is going to factor into that equation?
He talked a lot. You're right. You listened to about that, his philosophy in general, both, and I think that's generally just modern football anymore.
True.
Certainly in defense, but in defense, the secondary. I mean, we're going to talk a lot. I'm sure you are talking a lot about where's Jalen Ramsey go and all that.
Yeah.
I just feel like that'll be down to down, game plan to game plan, week to week, that type of thing. Where there might be games or situations where he's playing, but that's just what in the offensive line. It's part of that. Now, it's whether the Steelers kind of had with Saumalo, it wasn't like we couldn't wait for Saumalo to leave. It wasn't like kick him out the door. Sometimes you get that point with a veteran guy where we're not re-signing him. I think there was interest or they wanted to have him back, or they were open to having him back.
Yeah.
So it would be sort of disingenuous to say, well, they expect Spencer Anderson to just step in and play right away whenever Saumalo could have been back, and they obviously bring in a veteran free agent like they have. But you're right. If maybe a couple months ago, maybe just me in my blind spot, I didn't think offensive line was really a big possibility for the first round of the draft. But the more and more this process goes on, the more and more you just hear, more and more you kind of read the tea leaves, the more, and the Broderick Jones thing, I think a couple months ago, I don't think I was, me didn't think Broderick Jones would be a physical question, a health question mark at this point of the offseason as we head into, soon enough here, get on the field. So I think that factors in.
There was a little bit of news about that yesterday.
I wanted to follow up with you on that. What are you hearing on Broderick's health?
Yeah, I feel like
it's hard to get that information.
It's. I think medically wise, I think there's the belief he's going to be cleared to even by OTAs and things like from a medical perspective. But it's also like he's an offensive line. I mean, you need to be trained. Your body has been sort of neck back type of thing here. We do your off-season strength program, your everything like that. It can't be done really. So I think there is a little bit of sort of like, I don't think it's a matter of he'll be out for the season or anything like that, but I think it's kind of like, okay, where are we at with him? And obviously then that isn't even, I think, part of it. If he was an all-pro left tackle,
sure,
then I was like, well, okay, he'll be fine but if he had his off-season being like this and kind of not be able to do it, so I think they kind of have to, approaching it, they kind of have to hedge things, and we can't really, we'll see how it plays out, and hopefully he is back, hopefully, builds up and, gets him physically where he needs to be a starting lineman, and of course, obviously then it's kind of a separate issue, but it all goes together, the performance and where he's at and everything in terms of what we've seen from him on tape here the first 3 years of his career.
You had a good point, though, too. I mean, it's such a strength-based position, and I'm sure this is true to some degree with almost every injury, but back and neck, I'm sure he's not benching or doing rows or, anything close to upper body, maybe not even lifting at all during this stretch. He has to lose some strength during this whole process.
Yeah, you're right, because that obviously the core and the back, and there's so many. I guess you could do legs, I guess, and theoretically it wouldn't be, but just, and we're talking about an NFL offensive tackle. That's something that people have injuries, I get it, but I just think all the questions around it, in terms of where he's at and physically and just the neck in general type of thing. It doesn't sound at all like it's anything like, not that they're different players, and I don't think anybody really believed this, but when you start getting to the point where it's neck and things like that, last year was a player, and I skipped my name right now, the
Texas
DB.
defensive
Watts, yes.
Yeah.
And he had to retire. They're not anywhere to that level, that degree or anything, but now it's just a point of he can be physically cleared, and then it's like building himself back up. So it's still, as we sit here right now at this moment, it's still March. Just April's coming real soon here, and we're starting to build up toward where it does get too late, or it gets late. It's still early yet, so I think it could be okay. But I think they're happy with where, medical-wise, in terms of getting cleared, that kind of thing. I don't think there's anything a doctor can say, no, he can't do,
You don't think they pick up his fifth-year option, though, do you? I'd really be shocked.
Yeah, I'd be, yeah. I don't think
if he was a better player or 100% healthy, but 2 strikes against you, it's like,
yeah, it's really.
And Cook's not bad,
Exactly. You have Cook, and if we're sitting here talking, and I agree with you that first-round tackle is a possibility, right? Not only if that happens, it even slams the door even more on the fifth-year option for Jones. But the fact that it's even in play, I think pretty much says
possibility.
It all. It says kind of where things are at.
And it looks like there'll be guys to pick from at 21 at tackle.
Yeah.
Some years you can't even go down that road. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Adamski, co-host of the Steelers Blitz, covers the Steelers for the Trib, with us here on our mini Radio Row inside the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona. Chris,
we're doing a lot of heavy lifting on Radio Row this year.
We are.
I think Texans have not held up their side.
We are. We're about 1/3 of the radio representation down here.
I think we're about 90% of the radio representation.
We're the Aaron Rodgers in this room down here. We're the ones walking right into Canton one day, and everyone else is just on the coattails. Speaking of quarterbacks, buzz. It continues to be a lot of positive buzz from Mike McCarthy and company on Will Howard. Mike McCarthy saying that if he was in charge of the draft last year, Will Howard would not have lasted into the 6th round. Is this real? How much of a crack is he going to get? Do they really feel like, at least maybe by the time we get out of Latrobe, he can be the clear-cut number 2?
Yeah, I do believe that there's genuine curiosity, there's genuine admiration from afar from the coaching staff that came in, and Mike McCarthy. Remember, he did talk. He said that, and he talked about watching Will Howard. I always talk about, he was arguably, he wasn't, but he was the starting quarterback of the national championship team. So he got more airtime than any college football player in the country 2 years ago. So everybody kind of knew who he was and kind of followed him. So, and I think there was that admiration, seeing how well he played during that stretch. And whenever you're at that point during that college football playoff run by Will Howard last year, that's just right when Mike McCarthy had been let go or left or parted ways, I should say, with the Cowboys, however you want to put it. So he was watching more football at that point than he had. So he saw like peak Will Howard tape with that. He's watching it live in terms of what he's doing. So I do believe that it's genuine for sure that the offensive staff and Mike in particular like Will Howard, but I also don't. There's something to say we like it better than a 6th-round pick to say he's good enough to be a franchise quarterback, right? So
big
I
leap
do
there,
think,
yeah.
But I guess the way Wes even talked about that frame of the question, yes, I do think there's certainly a possibility that there's a scenario where he could be the number 2 as soon as this year, but. There's also the possibility that you add the veteran, assuming it's Rodgers, and then they draft a quarterback in the mid-rounds or whatever, and you're not going to cut him. Then all of a sudden, I don't want to say he'll get cut, but all of a sudden it gets a little hairy, where he's at all in the depth chart, right?
That's what I was going to ask you next, is because I've said this 8 million times that I understand a case for and against a 3rd, 4th, 5th round quarterback, and some I like better than others, some they'll like better than others, and they have to be the right guy available, but that probably is the writing on the wall for Rudolph if you take him. I am always in favor of taking a bite at the apple. You might get a cheap, home run Brock Purdy situation, Dak Prescott situation. He wants to work with young quarterbacks. He even said, I wish I had 5 in my room this year. Yeah. Do you think they do it, and would you do it?
Yeah, I mean, Mark, there's at least one other person who's a bigger Mason Rudolph fan amongst the media than I am, but I've been always proponent of Mason Rudolph. But
and that's not a knock on Rudolph. It says they're not going to keep 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
he's only a contract one more year.
And I totally agree with you. You laid out the reasons why taking a mid-round quarterback, because you go into the process, you think, okay, if they had fallen in love with Ty, or if they still do, I shouldn't use the past. If Ty Simpson, then that's something you don't pass up. You don't worry about.
And so that's a little different conversation.
Yeah, you don't worry about if you think you have a franchise guy in the first round, you're taking the pick. Everything else is secondary. You worry about that later. But if you start going into the mid-rounds, there all of a sudden, knowing that one way or another they'll have Rodgers, or if there's somebody else. But if there's Rodgers, and then there's
Howard.
And you have
those
Howard.
guys are going to make the team.
Yeah, and so then only 3 at the are going to make the team. So you have to look at it. That says something about somebody, right? If you take it in the mid rounds, you would think, or at least it spells trouble for someone, whether it's Rudolph or Howard, right? It's someone, because all 4 of them can't make the team. Now,
Rudolph might flip him into a 6th-round pick or something to a team that needs him, or a team that gets injured,
And that's what I think is it's a little bit interesting is just watching Ben Roethlisberger over the final 8 or 9 years of his career at training camp. He did the thing where he did full practice, half practice, no practice. And at least the first year for Aaron Rodgers, maybe because it was a new team, maybe, I don't know, I was surprised. I assumed at age 41 last year we wouldn't see him very much at Latrobe.
He only missed 2 practices the whole year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he was
There's
out there all the time.
not that many reps to go around for all these young guys.
So part of me thinks like they'll roll the ball out there and do the old-fashioned, like, okay, Will, show us you deserve to be part of the future. Okay, Mason, show us you deserve to be part of this team now.
And if you threw Nussmeier in there, that makes it all of a sudden there's not that many reps to go around.
Exactly.
It's
so
hard,
it's a little bit harder, if you're trying to get your starter prepared for the season. So that isn't ideal. But, I mean, I do, especially when you have 12 draft picks, Matt. Your idea would take a bite at the apple.
Yeah.
It's a lot more tenable. And you almost, I don't want to say you have to.
Then you have to have a plan in place.
Yeah,
how do I get these guys developed?
But it's almost harder to make 12 picks and not take a quarterback, right, if you're in that situation. So it's almost like you'd almost be waiting, because you take 12 picks at other positions, and that's another – it's hard for those 12 guys to make the team as it is. Now you throw an extra guy in there at a position that it's going to be hard to make the team.
That you need to spend time developing.
Exactly.
If it's a 4th-round quarterback, he's going to make the team.
Yes.
A couple more minutes here with our buddy Chris Adamski. Chris, I wanted to ask you just, maybe kind of a national thing or two as it relates to these league meetings here. What's your, I guess, on a scale of calm, concerned, worried, and panicked, okay? Where are you at on the NFL Referees Association and this stalemate with the league?
I mean, I'm generally calm to concerned, I guess. I don't know. It's going to get brought up now a lot, the Fail Mary and things like that. Maybe I've had selective memory where it wasn't so. I'm like, it'll work. There's labor dispute will work itself out. Even if they start the season, play a few weeks, then the negotiation will come together. But I guess you're right that if a high-profile mistake is made of something, that's what ended the dispute last time, 13 years ago, 14 years ago now, when that happened. It's a high-profile gaffe. So you hope that if you're the Steelers, you're not the one that happens to be. Maybe you'll benefit from it though. Like, this is actually the best thing.
This is great.
But and again, just like I said, there's lots of time. We talk about Roger Jones. It's still March as we see it here today. There's not a game of consequence for 4.5 months or over 4 months or 5 months, I should say. And even exhibition games aren't for over 4 months. So I think there's still plenty of time. And these negotiations, there's a little rhetoric going out the last couple of days, but that's just part of the process.
Trying to win the narrative, right?
Exactly. So I think that if we're still here and it's August 1st instead of April 1st about to hear, then maybe the level rises, but I think it'll be all right.
Last thing I have for you, and I think we all agree, Roman Wilson, Caleb Johnson haven't lived up to their draft expectations, obviously. But just listening to McCarthy, and it's something I've kind of inferred to this point, they're going to get somewhat of a new lease on life, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, those two are probably the two of the that I don't say happy about the coaching change, but
that's the same words I used. I mean, at least it's new eyeballs.
Exactly,
looking at you, right?
I mean, there's a clean slate aspect to any time there's a new coach that comes, and whatever the staff that drafted, the coaching staff, and I know they had Mike Tomlin influence, obviously, but they're still on hand here. There was things that the Steelers liked about those two players. They took them in the 3rd round. So you still have that kind of support behind you, and you have a new set of eyes. Now, just by so far what they've done, the Steelers free agency wise, and then there's a long way to go with the draft and everything, and that could flip on its head. But I haven't been as Michael Pittman's that's aggressive, and it was the first moments of free agency essentially. But aside from that, the rest has been kind of quiet at wide receiver. And when you go out and obviously more receivers play, more receivers are part of your game day roster, blah blah blah. But as we stand right now, Roman Wilson is probably still, a starting as the depth chart sits.
They were play tomorrow.
Exactly.
He's probably your number 3.
I don't expect that to be the case, but I think that is a little bit of an indication that he's maybe in higher state because it's going to be Caleb better whether he figures out the kickoff return thing, gets back in good graces with that, or whether he figures out another role on special teams. Because right now, the number 3 running back,
you got to play teams.
You have to play teams.
So if he doesn't do that, that's when it starts. Now, he's still only a second year. It's a lot more feasible to move on from somebody in a third year when you're a third-round pick than a second year. It's pretty rare. I don't know. How often is a third-round pick cut before his second season starts?
Not very.
Yeah.
But he was also drafted for a different system. And maybe there's a team out there that had a really high grade on him 1 year ago. And, you wouldn't get close to your investment. You might get a 6th-round pick back or return. But and I still think, again, if you have 12 picks, they might draft a running back still. Even with the Homer edition.
Oh, you're definitely right.
And then all of a sudden it gets real tight.
Yeah, you're right. That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. And just, again, it's a tea leaves. Hate to read too much into. We all hang on every word at this point. But both with the general manager and the coach, McCarthy and Omar so far, I feel like the answers are more enthusiastic about a Roman Wilson than they are about a Caleb Johnson.
Yeah, I got those vibes too. Plus, there's more roster spots to go around.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why Roman seems a little in a better spot right now, yes.
And Roman does have to run down on kickoffs to save his job.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
We are in a better spot after having about 18 minutes with our friend Chris Adamski. Make sure you're checking out all his work in the Trib this week. And, of course, listening to him and Tom here on the Steelers Blitz on the Steelers Audio Network. Buzz, thanks for the time. Go Mars Planets.
There you go. MARS, Mars.
We'll be back with some around the league conversation, other news of the day when we return. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson here inside the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona, all part of our ongoing coverage of the league meetings on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Back on the drive here inside the Biltmore. It is our final day of annual league meeting coverage, the 2026 edition here in Phoenix, Arizona.
It's been good so far, huh?
Matt,
it's been great.
I was joking with you when we were walking over here this morning after getting our highly valuable swag bags.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig in what's all in these bags. It's pretty nice.
I think we started a little bit of a firestorm because after us there was about a dozen members of the Steelers.
Well, we were
and
smart.
Pittsburgh
Kept our mouth quiet, one of the first ones in, and then we started spreading the word.
That's exactly right. That's exactly.
Go get your goodies.
Take care of yourself first, right? And then you.
Yeah.
That's the golden rule, I think, right? Is take care of yourself and then worry about others, and that's exactly what we did this morning. I was telling you when we were walking back over here, I was like, Matt, you told me how awesome these few days were and how cool all this was.
Yeah, it's just a different world.
But I think you even undersold it a little bit. I mean, it was undersold and over-delivered. I mean, the access, the property here, the meals, the food.
The one thing we might have to do before we even sneak over, before we Uber back to the hotel is see how far we can get back into the really, really nice area of the
now
hotels.
You're trying to get me in trouble, huh?
Well, we're not going to break down any barriers or anything, but we'll just see how far we can meander back there, because I think the deeper and deeper you get into the property, it's like villas and super expensive stuff.
Matt's a little bit braver than me in these settings.
Next year you will be.
In these settings, he likes to push the boundaries of the credential and see how far it can get us.
Pretend like you belong.
That's half the battle.
That's half the battle, right?
And that certainly was half the battle of us getting this big Nike bag,
it's like walking into a beer
bag.
It's like walking into a beer distributor here when you're 17. You got to look like you belong. Man.
I wouldn't know anything about that. I don't know what you're talking about, Matt. Obviously, a lot of Steelers moving and shaking through the first about halfway home.
Yeah, there's been a lot of I wouldn't say news, but a lot of moving and shaking. That's a good way to put it, right?
Things that obviously deserve conversation, but with the AFC head coaches breakfast today, 15 other head coaches spoke. There's been some more GMs and owners that have spoken the last 21 hours or so since we were last on air yesterday. I think a big piece of news, at least something that struck me this morning, is it seems like there's a lot of confidence amongst the Kansas City Chiefs that Patrick Mahomes is going to be ready for the opener.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen any of this news yet. We've been on the air the whole time. Yeah, right.
And Andy Reid seemed optimistic when he was asked about that at his, media availability this morning. And then Adam Schefter, actually not too far from where we sit here out in front of the facility, went on the Pat McAfee show and said, give Patrick Mahomes 5 more months and he's going to be ready for the opener. That's what I expect. I think he will be back.
So medicine's come a long way. There's no doubt about that.
Injuries have come a long way.
He's played through one of the most underrated things about Mahomes is some of the stuff he's played through too. I mean, he's had some of these catastrophic looking ankle injuries in the wild card round or whatever, and still takes his team to the Super Bowl. And there are some people like that. And knock on wood, like Cam Hayward always talks about how he has like Wolverine blood and he just heals quicker than others. And I think some of it, extreme athletes and guys that are bodies are even better than those that are – I mean, everyone that plays in leagues is the top 1% of humans walking the planet. But there's even the 1% of those guys that are a little more athletic, a little more limber, a little stronger, a little more balanced, etc. And there's nobody epitomizes that more than Mahomes. Plus, the other thing, people just think he gets by on ability. His work ethic is through the roof, and he's going to train to no end. But still, when they traded for Justin Fields, I thought maybe it'll be week 3 until he comes back. Fields will play the whole preseason, which I'm sure he'll do no matter what. And Andy Reid will try to revitalize a really talented player kind of at a crossroads in his career, Fields obviously. And maybe they'll just run the ball like crazy for the first 2 weeks of the season or something like that.
You got Kenneth Walker, you got the Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, and you signed a running back for that reason, I assume. But I'd rather run with Mahomes.
Yeah.
I'd
rather have a healthy Mahomes, that is for sure. So that one was interesting to me because it seemed like a lot of confidence that he'll be ready to go in September when the season gets rolling.
And the league's better for it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's one of the best quarterbacks that's ever lived. We don't want him on the sidelines.
And I think you can draw a direct correlation in this league to the quality of the product and the quality of the quarterback
of course.
Play.
Yeah, they don't want Josh Allen and Lamar and these Burrow and these guys missing time.
Exactly right.
And Lamar and Burrow missed too much time.
Exactly right. And speaking, let's stay there, Matt, in quarterback conversations. Some interesting stuff today in regards to what the Cleveland Browns are going to do in the AFC North at the quarterback position. So Jimmy Haslam, Browns owner, spoke, as did obviously their new head coach, Todd Monken. And I don't know if I want to say that it's a disconnect, but basically Jimmy Haslam said he told reporters that Deshaun Watson has a, quote, great chance to be Cleveland's starting quarterback.
Okay.
And then Monken kind of followed that up this morning, saying the reps won't be evenly divided in this quarterback battle. It will be based on what we've seen in the past and where we ended last year in terms of how this is all going to go about with, of course, Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, and Dylan Gabriel.
So Jimmy Haslam was not the owner of the Browns when I was there. That's how long ago I was there. But my hunch is when the owner says he's going to be in the mix, he's going to be in the mix. I mean, are we going to listen to the head coach who didn't say he's not going to be in the mix, to be fair? Or are we going to listen to his boss who says he is going to be in the mix and remembers the ridiculous investment they made in Watson? What I find kind of funny is the dude they drafted in the 3rd round, Dylan Gabriel's name, never even comes up anymore.
Ever. And he started, the first 10 games of the season?
Right. They drafted him 2 rounds ahead of Shedeur. And there were some weird things going on there.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
It's not a normal draft progression. But I do think it's going to be like a Shedeur-Watson competition in camp. And could some team grab Gabriel for 6th-round pick? I mean, I always thought he was a solid backup, potentially. My hunch is, and this probably goes without saying, is they don't have their quarterback. And I don't think they'll pursue it until next year.
Sure.
And they have a chance to build a decent nest with all these picks, and they are a free spending team.
That's got to be job number 1 for this new staff and new regime is let's build the nest so that when we do find the quarterback, we put him in the best situation possible.
Receivers and O-linemen are going to be stressed heavily in this draft for them. Off the field stuff aside about Watson, though. I mean, I'm not saying that's water on the bridge or it doesn't matter. I'd love to see him play right now.
Just in terms of the curiosity
yeah,
aspect?
Yeah, total curiosity. I mean, the day they traded for him, I thought he was a top 5 quarterback.
He was, without a doubt.
I mean, he was a phenomenal player. And trust me, I'm not rooting for him. I mean, there's probably no one in the league I'm rooting for less, to be very honest with you, considering the team he plays for and his background and all that stuff, too. But I'm extremely curious. Is he going to be the worst quarterback in the league? Could he get back to being good?
Could he be the 14th best quarterback in the league?
I mean, how much work has he put in? Does he look like he hasn't touched the football in 2 years? I mean, I just think it's a fascinating study, a scientific experiment.
So he had that unbelievable 2020 season with Houston.
Yeah.
Where they probably should have beaten the Chiefs in the playoffs, but had that just crazy game. He led the league in passing that year. He led the league in yards per completion that year, yards per attempt that year. 33 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions.
Plus the mobility.
As well as exactly right. And then 21 sits out. And since then, Matt, sat out in 21, sat out in 25. So he's played 22, 23, 24.
Were they all Browns?
For the Browns, yes. Played 6 games in 22, 6 games in 23, 7 games in 24.
And he was like the worst quarterback in the league for all of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this totally fell off a cliff.
And so
And he's got all his guaranteed money, and we know the off-field stuff, and
I would be shocked if he can get back to even
I'd be
just
blown
being
away.
a league average quarterback. But he just turned 31 years old, which for a quarterback is right in the middle of your prime.
Yeah, and at least, if you're looking at the Browns, maybe they think they have something in Shedeur. Maybe they do. Who knows? But if you're playing Watson, like I said, they're going to divvy up the snaps. Let's say they give him 40% of the action when OTAs and minicamps roll around and then go from there. It's not like you're restricting, some super high investment pick. It's not like Cam Ward, we're not letting you get out there and let you develop. The guys that he would be stealing reps off of aren't the first overall pick.
Right.
Or they're not Mendoza.
Not even first-round picks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, we just drafted Mendoza, now we're going to play him that much.
Ty Simpson.
Yeah, somebody's in the way, like Watson. Like, no.
Hey, it will be – it always is interesting to see how things play out in Cleveland, but I think it certainly will be, particularly from that quarterback perspective here as the offseason programs begin.
It'll at least be interesting.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm not
not interesting,
predicting anything.
Not interesting because it's going to be pretty, but –
No, it probably won't go well.
It probably won't go well.
No, I'm certain it won't, but –
Matt, Dan Campbell saying today that he's considering switching all-pro right tackle Penei Sewell to left tackle for the 2026 season, depending on how the rest of the offseason shakes out.
So I find this interesting, too. Like, originally, I'd heard this was mentioned like a month or so ago. I'm like, him or Lane Johnson's the best right tackle on the planet. Why would you ever mess with something that's almost as close to perfect as football gets? But their O-line's in a bit of a disarray. And they don't pick too far away from the Steelers. They're going to be looking at a lot of the similar O-line prospects, Proctor and Fano and Lemu and all those dudes. And I think they want the versatility on draft day to say, we don't have to take a left or we don't have to take a right. And I gave it some thought, too. I mean, Sewell, like Tristan Wirfs, is in the top 1% of all the offensive tackles in terms of ability.
He's unbelievable.
I mean, and he was a left tackle in Oregon.
He was.
As successful as he's been at right tackle, I mentioned Wirfs because the Bucs did the exact same thing with Wirfs, too, is they drafted a left tackle, made him a right tackle. He was basically the best in the league, and then switched him back a year or two ago.
And he's one of the best
and
in the league.
And it didn't matter
still.
at all because he's so good.
He's unbelievable.
So maybe Sewell would just be, look, I'm that good, it doesn't matter. And he might be. Like we've talked about for years.
It's like, it works both ways. Sometimes they start those guys on the right. They're great, and they leave them there. Like Lane Johnson. I think a lot of people thought eventually Lane Johnson would move to the left side for the Eagles, but he just stayed there. So there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, and there's more flip-flopping than there used to be.
Stay here.
Right tackles are the brawlers, and the left tackles are the dancing bears, and you don't flip them. And there's a lot of famous quotes about, it's like wiping yourself with the other hand if you flip and all those things. But, like, look at Fautanu's draft class. There was like 6 tackles drafted in the first half of
They're
round
all
one.
Switched.
They're all over the place. Alt goes from left to right. He's still great. Faltanu was a left tackle. He goes to right. He's great. Maybe it's easier now. I'm just open to that.
Yeah, no, I certainly think that is definitely something that has evolved, and you got to kind of change your process with that as opposed to how we all felt 10 years ago.
Like Penny Sewell was sitting here, he'd be like, I don't care. I'll be fine.
I'll be fine.
Yeah,
I'll be great.
Right.
I'll be
And
great.
he's probably right.
They're going to pay me big money. I'll be great on either side. I don't care.
No one's going to get past me. Right.
Whatever's best for the team. Chris Ballard, another name that you and I have discussed a little bit throughout the offseason, Matt, is Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson. And how of all the different, I guess if you want to label them, potential reclamation projects, he would
Everyone wants the Baker, the Daniel Jones,
Sam
the Darnold.
Yep.
Right.
And so we've kind of mentioned that he would be the guy that we'd be most interested in that regard, and that it seems like the Colts are ready to move on. But Chris Ballard saying today there is a scenario where Richardson stays with the Colts. Quote, there's definitely a scenario there. He's a good dude. He's talented. I still want good for Anthony. I think he's still got a lot in him. He's had some freaking bad luck, but I still think Anthony's got a lot of ability, and he's maturing and growing, and he's still young. Anytime you take a quarterback that high, the expectations, it's hard to live up to them no matter who you are.
Yeah, I've never thought he's somebody they have to trade. Got to get this guy out of the room. I mean, no one's ever said
especially with Daniel Jones. And
could
he be ready for the start of the season
going
or
with
not?
too. Like you might need Richardson. I know they have Riley Leonard, but I think he's nowhere near the prospect Richardson was or the ceiling Richardson was. And Jones I know Jones won't be available for OTAs, minicamp, probably well into training camp, maybe not even the beginning of the season. If you're the Colts, wouldn't you at least want to, instead of dumping him for a 5th-round pick, wouldn't you at least want to give 3 or 4 months worth more of him actually playing football?
Yeah.
I mean, he had a broken orbital bone, but he's going to be fine now. I mean, that's not a lingering injury or an athletic changing injury. He's still going to run. He's still going to throw. Blah blah blah. So if somebody comes and knocks their doors off, great. But there's a lot of these quarterbacks I thought would definitely be on the move, like the Mac Joneses of the world, that just haven't been. And there hasn't been quite as much quarterback movement around the league. Everyone's kind of settled, even if you don't include the Steelers. Where would he even go?
That's a good point.
Especially
if you take the Steelers out of the conversation.
Right, which I think it's going to be Rodgers and the 2 guys and maybe a pick. And that's pretty much written on the wall. So you keep them.
There's some of the other moving and shaking of the day. We have a few more T's to cross and I's to dot when we wrap up hour number 2 on the other side. Our buddy Alan Saunders from Steelers Now is going to join us in the bonus hour, 3rd hour. Before we get out of here, we'll also get to plenty of your tweets as we roll along here inside the Biltmore. We are on location in Arizona for the annual league meetings. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Closing down the 2nd hour of the show here on our 3rd day at the league meetings. It is The Drive on location about 2,000 miles away from our studios in Bridgeville, Pennsylvania, here in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's sunny, where it's beautiful, all the moving and shaking of the annual league meetings. And Matt, across the timeline here via Tom Pelissero, of course, of the NFL Network, the NFL owners have approved 4 rule changes.
Okay.
So here's what they
I forget
are.
These things happen while we're here, too.
Yeah, right.
There's a reason everybody gets together.
I thought it was for the fancy dinner last night.
right.
Steak and the sushi and the smoked watermelon margarita.
And the Mexican floating around down here and all that good stuff, too.
I am about to just abuse a burrito later for dinner. I can't wait.
I think that's a good move.
Tom Pelissero saying these 4 have passed. The first, to permit the kicking team to declare an onside kick at any time during the game, has passed.
Boom. I mean, I thought that was an easy one.
And 97% of them will still be in the 4th quarter.
Of course.
98% of them will still be in the 4th quarter.
But if someone wants to do it in the first, doesn't make it smart, but do it. Who cares, right?
If you're down 17 points at the end of the 3rd quarter, go for it.
Desperate times, right.
Desperate times, desperate measures, all that good stuff. Yeah, that one.
I think they just screwed that up when they wrote it the first time.
Same.
Let's just correct it a year or 2 later.
And that's how a lot of these things work.
Exactly.
That's why you have competition committees, right? The second thing that has passed here in Arizona is eliminating the kicking team's incentive to intentionally kick the ball out of bounds when kicking off from the 50-yard line.
That was a total loophole.
That was one.
I just think they just didn't think through.
Yep, special teams
and how could
coaches,
you?
How could you? Yeah, it was the first time going through it. And so, yeah, we saw that. Danny Smith did that a couple times last year. We saw it, I remember, in Dublin was one of the times.
Yeah. Just drill it out of bounds and
drill it out of bounds.
No risk.
And you end up getting 5 yards. You give the offense 5 yards less of field position in the process too.
Yeah, kind of a helpless feeling if you're the return team.
Yes. So that one certainly a little bit of a loophole.
So how did they word it?
Exploited.
You're not allowed to drill it out of bounds?
Yes. Now, so again,
I
think
they did it by accident.
They probably still have to decide the parameters on that. Maybe if
I guess there's a big penalty.
Maybe it's a big penalty, or it's just if you kick it out of bounds, the ball goes here. It's just
okay. It's
set
at the 50
or
something.
Okay.
It's
at the 35 or it's
That's
at the 40
probably what it is, right?
Or whatever. So some of the language of these rules will still have to be delegated. Written, But we know at least that.
But what was proposed passed.
Yes, to eliminate that incentive to intentionally kick the ball out of bounds has passed. So that's 2 of the 4, and a third one. Also, directly, we talked about this on Sunday on our kind of opening show and our kind of primer and 411 to set the scene here for the week. A lot of this
What's
related.
411 mean?
411 is it's like your information, like 411.
Well, I know, but why did that come about?
That's a good question.
Why isn't it 287?
It's 411, relevant information or the truth. What does the slang term 411 mean?
And where did it derive from, I guess, is my question.
Originates from the United States telephone system, where 411 was the number dialed for directory assistance to get information.
So it's like 911. There's certain numbers you punch it.
It was Google, basically, before Google. You dial 411, you could get your information. So give me the 411 is all the news, all the gossip, all the lowdown.
Way before internet and whatnot.
On a particular subject.
Yeah, I understood what it meant. I just didn't know where it came from.
Hey, we're learning something new here every day. A lot of these, as we shared with you, are related to the kickoffs, and the third rule change that has passed is also related to kickoff, to modify the kickoff alignment requirements for the receiving team players in the setup zone.
So they're allowing that.
They're allowing that, so teams will have a little more wiggle room, a little more freedom to how they want to align on kickoffs now. It's not rigid and set and static. It has to be this way.
Again, we both leaned that way whenever we brought this stuff up, when we got here. And again, I mean, if you're going to allow defense coordinators, offense coordinators, play designers on those sides of the ball to be more creative with their formations and schemes, why not let the special team coaches do it too?
It makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely makes a ton of sense. So those 3, I think we thought that there was a really good chance that those 3 would pass, all related to –
I bet there wasn't much resistance on those.
All related to the kickoff, all of those proposed by the competition committee, and according to Tom Pelissero.
You need to remember the whole dynamic kickoff is still pretty new.
We're only going into year 3 here.
Yeah.
So the dynamic kickoff is still on its rookie deal.
It's still on its rookie deal, right.
3.
Looks like they'll pick up its 5th-year option now. Right.
I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think they'll have to think about that one too much. And then finally, Matt, the 4th and final rule change that has passed, according to Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network, is that, for 1 year only, the NFL will allow the officiating department to correct clear and obvious misses made by on-field officials that impact the game in the event that there is a work stoppage involving the game officials represented by the NFL Referees Association.
Yeah, and at a minimum, this ref thing is not going to go away soon. I'm sure we'll be talking about this for weeks, maybe months, hopefully not months and months and months. My takeaway, and this really reaffirms it, is at a minimum, the owners in the league are putting pressure on the refs.
Yes,
and that's
that might be all that it is.
Right?
That's
maybe it's all it is.
101, baby.
Right. But that's at least that much.
Yes.
I mean, they're pushing the hammer down a little bit.
Oh, and also, via Pelissero, NFL owners also just approved an amended rule change that not only will allow league personnel to consult with on-field officials when considering disqualifications. Remember, we talked about this.
Yeah, like the spitting incidents and things like that.
Spitting and punching and stamping. So not only to review those type of things, but also to throw a flag on the play as well, too. So not only
that did get approved.
Yes.
Okay.
So not only could someone from the league office or from the booth, buzz down and say, "Hey, Jamar Chase just spit on Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, let's look at that.
You got to eject him out." You could also say you could throw a 15-yard personal foul on that, even if the referees miss it all.
Good. Again, I think I brought this up 2 days ago that should happen. I don't want people getting away with disgusting acts and things like that.
Yeah, I agree.
But how far do we take it? Is it like
a shove?
Yeah, right.
Act.
Oh, he might have hit him in the face mask after the penalty.
Is a slight little palm to the face, or does it have to be a groin punch? Does it have to be a stomp on the ankle? Does it have to be putting your hand around somebody's throat? Like that does leave some interpretation up to the officials.
I'm not super worried about it, but I don't want someone to take it too far. Like, we're going to review that. Come on,
That's where I'm with you. I want technology to be part of the game, but I don't want it to take over the game.
Yes.
I think that's the balance.
And like in the Chase situation, it would have absolutely changed the game. Right.
I said this to you a few days ago. I think there's not a lot that sports fans across the board all agree upon, but I don't care if it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey. I think everybody wants technology to be a part of the game.
Yeah.
They just don't want it to take over and clunk up the flow of the game at the same time. There's a balance there that we're all looking to strike.
Yes.
Matt, couple more T's to cross and I's to dot before we put a bow here on hour number 2. The Super Bowl is officially returning to Las Vegas in 2029.
Okay.
Oh boy, that'll be a fun scene.
You think
there.
many people would be wanting to go to that?
I think that'll be a fun scene there in Las Vegas. Also, don't tell anybody I told you this. All right, but I was listening to some little birdies chirp last night at the dinner.
Yeah.
It sounds like Nashville in 2030. Which, oh boy.
That wouldn't be a bad spot either.
It would not be a bad spot, but my goodness, downtown Nashville is like smaller than downtown Pittsburgh. And
wow,
that would be a lot of fun, but a lot of chaos. But
when the Steelers are there back-to-back, you and I have a good time in Vegas and Nashville.
Yeah, that's exactly. We sure will. Listen, when we're on the NFL's dime and travel schedule, it won't be a problem. We'll be doing fantastic. Also announced by the Minnesota Vikings, they are picking up the 5th-year option on wide receiver Jordan Addison.
I thought that was semi-debatable. Like Naylor was up for free agency. I thought they might try to just keep him and let Addison go. Addison's a good player. He's a really good number 2, but he's very small, and I think he's a slightly overrated player that benefits so much from Jefferson being on the other side, and he keeps getting in trouble. I mean, he just keeps getting in trouble over and over and over. Now, 5th-year option for a guy like him, he's probably not going to a Pro Bowl. Isn't really real disability.
It's not breaking the bank.
Yeah. And I do think the Vikings are in it to win it this year with Kyler. I mean, I don't think they're taking a step back and trying to rebuild or anything. But I didn't know if this was a slam dunk.
Yeah, I didn't either.
He's always in trouble.
That's the kicker.
Yeah.
He's a good number 2, and you used a first-round pick on him a few years ago. But
the 5th-year option is also different than I'm going to give you a huge contract with a $25 million signing bonus.
And as you mentioned, especially if he was a later first-round pick.
Later first.
If he hasn't hit a lot of those incentives.
I don't think he's hit a lot of the kickers,
The number probably isn't crazy. It's probably a fair number to pay a number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And maybe you end up if he walks the line like Johnny Cash, maybe you end up extending him. If not, hey,
if he leaves at the end of the year, you probably get a comp pick out of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point too. Let's see here, Matt. Dolphins GM John Eric Sullivan shut down any potential conversation regarding trade rumors for Devon Achane earlier this morning. Saying,
I keep hearing that, but I don't know if I believe it.
Saying that it's a priority for them to extend him, and there's zero effort to move him.
Okay. I mean, originally when he said that a couple weeks ago, right after the Waddle trade, I just thought, man, no one's offered enough yet. His style, I mean, running backs just don't last in this league, especially tiny ones. By the time you're good, is that a good investment?
I don't know. I don't think.
I mean, he certainly helps with evaluating Willis, which is super important.
That
part is important,
yes,
right? I mean, swing passes to him, and
you gotta
sort of competitive.
You got to have somebody that can do something for you on that offense, right?
Yeah, and they'll probably draft 2 good pass catchers, or young pass catchers, pretty high, but still, I would think that's a piece you want to move.
And one of the last things that I think we need to discuss here, Matt, because it's not a huge story now, but I think in the coming years it will be, and that is that the NFL announced a partnership with Tomorrow Sports, the company behind, that Total Golf League that we've seen on ESPN sometimes. It's all the pro golfers that are in the indoor facility.
Yeah,
play virtual golf.
And the greens all change.
Rory McIlroy does it. Tiger Woods does it. Like, they've got big names.
We were in Indianapolis. Was the first time I ever saw it. Right.
It's the same company that does that. They are developing a professional flag football league for both men and women that will be backed by all 32 NFL teams. So the NFL partnering with Tomorrow Sports for a pro flag football league. Matt, the reason why I think right now this doesn't grab a bunch of headlines or move the needle, but it will eventually, is because, remember, a little over 2 years from now, summer of 2028, the Summer Olympics are in Los Angeles here in the United States, and flag football is going to be for the first time an Olympic sport.
Yeah, I knew that.
So this, I think, is the ramp up to that of
get people used to it.
Get people used to it. Get people interested in it. Get NFL players involved to see exactly what that looks like, because they are vastly different games that are governed differently and played differently. But that I just think is important. I think that's something that, again, today isn't going to grab a bunch of headlines, but I think this is the start of potentially something that could be substantial in a couple years.
Yeah, and there was a get-together here where Larry was involved. Larry Fitzgerald was
That's
involved.
Right. We ran into your old buddy. That's one of the things and all the fun of yesterday. We forgot
all
to bring
about
up,
that, right?
That
was yesterday, right?
That
Or was that 2 days
yesterday.
ago? Everything kind of
Yes.
blending together. But, yeah, he was here promoting that with some other people, and I guess it went well. I didn't sit in there, but I did run into Larry before. We
I thought you would maybe talk. I'd heard from you for a long time how good buddies you are with Larry Fitzgerald and all this.
I don't see him or talk to him on it.
But still, you'd be like, him and my wife used to get along, and we used to watch film together, and I'm like, all right, let's see how well Larry remembers Matt.
I didn't know how well I'd be received.
We're walking down the hallway, and we're maybe 20 yards away from him, and Larry sees Matt, and he starts smiling and waving right away. All right, so he wasn't lying. He wasn't exaggerating. They are buddies.
Yeah.
He was happy to see you, and I think everybody on Twitter and social media got a kick out of how you're the same height as Larry Fitzgerald. Everyone was like, wow, how tall is Matt?
That was kind of odd, because you took the pictures, and I look a lot taller than him, or noticeably taller than him, and I'm not. And so, like a nerd, I looked up Larry Fitzgerald combine measurements.
Yep.
And he was 6'0",
which is
6'2" and 7'8",
so just a shade under 6'3",
which is exactly what I am. And I'm like, there's no way. I mean, people are like, Matt looks like he's 6'5". I didn't realize what a giant. I'm not 6'5". It's just a weird picture, I guess, or
about
whatever.
6'3",
Yeah,
6'3" in shoes.
Yeah. I think my hair was standing up from wearing a headset all day too. Right.
Before we go, you were always looking tip top there, Matt Williamson.
Oh, but also flag. I want to mention. I love that women get to be involved in a great sport.
It's awesome.
I don't know if one day they'll wear helmets and pads and play this version of football or not, but it's great that they, a whole new realm of young women and people are going to be exposed to this in a professional manner.
It's great. Last thing before we get to break and to our buddy Alan Saunders of Steelers Now to kick off our bonus third hour. I've been keeping an eye on this all day, Matt, because remember, Jermod McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee.
Oh, that's today,
one of the more intriguing prospects. Pro day in Knoxville in Tennessee just within the past hour. He just ran a 4.3840.
Oh, good for him.
38-inch vertical jump.
Okay.
And a 10.7 broad jump about a half an hour ago at his pro day.
That's more than just checking the boxes of you're healthy.
First-round pick?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he probably always was going to be a first-rounder, but maybe now in the top 10, top 15.
Yeah, I originally thought maybe he goes to a bad team, like the Jets that can just wait on him and be the eventual Sauce replacement at like 17 or whatever that is. Now, does he challenge Delane to be cornerback 1?
He just might.
I think it's not crazy.
He just might. Good day for Jermod McCoy for sure. It's been a good day for us so far, and when we return, we will kick off our bonus hour with our friend Alan Saunders of Steelers Now. We'll cover all the moving and shaking here on the grounds of the Biltmore on this Tuesday with Alan in hour number 3. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it is The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Bonus hour, final hour here of The Drive on location inside the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona for the 2026 NFL League Owners Meetings. And joining us now to kick off our final hour, he's been a guest a few times here in the last few months on The Drive. It's our buddy Alan Saunders, of course, of Steelers Now. Alan, this is my first owners meeting. I have been pleasantly surprised. This is a fabulous event. How have things been on your end?
It's wonderful every year. I think this is the best location. I love it here.
You like it better in Florida?
Yeah, I do. It doesn't rain here.
That's a good point.
It is hot. It got off the plane and it's just like, who turned the furnace on? Like, gee, this is at night and everything.
Florida's rough that way too.
Still hot, but I think this is a great setup here, and they take great care of us. And yeah, really nothing to complain about this week.
Have a good time last night?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard not to.
So let's get right into it with you here, Alan. And I know we kind of had some news in the last half an hour or so, but the NFL owners approving a rule change allowing the league to step in and assist on potential disqualifications, whether for flagrant football acts or non-football acts, and initiate a flag if one wasn't thrown. Was the DK Metcalf incident in Detroit last year a real catalyst of this conversation?
I think it was. It certainly is the example case for how the NFL would like this to play out differently. And honestly, I think, when we saw the suspension handed out last year as 2 games and then DK went to the appeal, I thought, they'll probably knock it down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, maybe if he had been ejected at halftime of that game, instead of playing the second half, that might have been something that happened. So I think in some ways, I don't love the idea of the flag from the press box, right?
Yeah.
From New
Could
York,
get clunky.
New York throws the flag on the play. I think that's a little bit fraught, but I think it will end up helping resolve it's such a weird and unique situation. I just hope they don't overuse it. Like, how many times
we said the same thing, yeah.
Has a situation like that occurred where you're sitting there watching something happen, like, I really probably should be thrown out for that, and the officials didn't see it. Like, it doesn't happen very often.
Were there any shocks of the things that got voted? I mean, I thought all the kickoff stuff was pretty much cut and dry, easy decisions.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I felt like this kickoff, they were very conservative with the rollout of the new kickoff, where I think we're going to see, as they continue to tweak this, we're seeing more returns. Certainly.
That's what they want, yeah.
We're seeing more returns. It's a play that exists again, but we're not seeing anywhere near the explosive plays that we saw at the height of the kick return in the early 2000s. I think I wrote there were a handful of touchdowns last year. I think that maybe 6. I think there were in 2007 there were 2 guys that had 3.
Wow.
The whole league had 6.
Wow, yeah.
So it's like they got to find
Dante Hall, Devin Hester.
They got to find some ways to give the return team a chance to make a big play, and so giving them more flexibility in where they line the guys up, I think, is what they're going for. The rest of it just seems very cut and dry,
pretty obvious stuff. Yeah. So, like, an underrated need, I think that I've been talking about for months, and even before this, Steelers really could use return guys.
Both punt and kick.
Yeah, they don't really have anybody.
Punt. I mean, Jaylen Warren, I assume, will continue to be one of the 2 guys back there on kickoff return, probably. But Kenny Gainwell was there. I think. And Mike McCarthy was talking yesterday about he wants wide receivers that can do more than one thing. And he very specifically said, that could mean playing in the slot or playing outside. It could also mean go play on special teams.
Yeah,
and
returner, gunner,
they
whatever.
They don't have a lot of bodies in the wide receiver room. So I think it makes sense if you're looking at mid-round picks, say, go get another wide receiver who can return some kicks.
Well, if you're kind of trying to read the tea leaves of the draft here in, 23 days, it kicks off in Pittsburgh. Mike McCarthy spent some time this morning talking about the value of position flexibility, particularly how critical it is for an offensive line. There are a lot of those, first-round type prospects in this draft, and even some into the second round, that kind of profile as they could play guard or tackle in the league. Does that put an antenna up? Does that feel like a real option for the Steelers to go back to the offensive line at 21, even when they've invested a lot of draft capital there recently?
I don't know that I see the player that I think is a fit that's going to be there at 21. I mean, Vega Ioane, I love as a player, but
he's a guard.
Would be surprised if he even gets to 18, and he's a guard, and a really good one. In terms of, some of the other guys, I just don't know. I think versatility is great. I think also versatility is something we say about people that we're not sure if they have a home. And don't get those things confused. Is Caden Proctor a tackle who might have to move to guard, or is he just not a very good tackle? I don't know.
Yeah.
And always those questions.
And I don't want to draft a guy in the first round that might not be a very good tackle. And I don't have any idea if he's going to move to guard. I think we've seen a trend in recent years of some of these guys that know that question is coming when they get to the NFL. They move to guard on their own in college. And I think that's probably the better way to go for it. It's like, like I said, versatility is great. It is very rare, though, that you have guys that are truly good at multiple positions. And most of the time, you're either talking about guys who are just okay at everything or guys that really just don't have a fit.
So I think we can all agree that they're going to draft a receiver high and maybe even two of them, in this draft with all the picks they have. I really think there's about a 0% chance Tate from Ohio State is there. I think everyone else has a chance to make 21. Do you have a second favorite? Do you have a pecking order of the receivers that you like? Have you ranked them in any way?
I actually think I like Tyson better than Tate.
Do you? On
tape. It's just the injuries that is a big factor.
Thing to comment on.
You can't really, it's hard to factor what teams are going to, especially with his, because it's not like he has something that's ongoing. It's just that he's been hurt all the time. It's durability. And I don't know how to weight that. I love his tape. I think to me he's clearly the second guy that I would want. But, I don't think it's crazy that one of those top guys is there for the Steelers at 21. I think it's very likely, given that they have 12 picks, that if one of those guys even makes it to a short trade-up range, 3-4 picks up, that they'll go get him, because why not with 12? You're not going to have 12 rookies make the team.
No.
Do you feel strongly about Boston or Concepcion or Lemon or any of those others?
I think Boston, for me, I love him as a player. Feels like the worst fit for the Steelers.
Just a little too redundant.
He is exactly. Well, Mike's just talking about guys who can do multiple things. I don't think he's that. And the one thing he does, they already have guys that can do that. I just think he's
the traditional outside the numbers. Yeah.
He's probably the worst fit. I think he's a really good player, and decent chance that he's BPA when pick 21 comes around. I think I would rather have. If I was making a big board sort of for any team, I'd put him ahead of Concepcion and Cooper, but I think they're better fits for what the Steelers need right now.
Okay.
Alan Saunders of Steelers Now with us here on our little mini radio row at the league meetings inside the Biltmore. Alan, sticking with that draft conversation, you mentioned those 12 picks. Is there a sweet spot for the Steelers to move up? Would you be interested in maybe nabbing an additional second-round pick? Is there any thought in your mind, even from potentially moving down to 21, if there's not the BPA fit that you love as well?
Yeah, I think the best part of this draft for me is from about pick 15 to 60. I really like those guys. So whether it's moving up a little bit in the first round, moving up in the second round, I love the players in the 40 range if they can get into there, or moving up to get another second-round pick. I think all of those should be on the table. Those feel like the best ways to use those additional resources. I'm sure they would also be interested in trading some of them for 27 capital. Usually you profit on that exchange by waiting a year. But I think in this situation, that's not going to be the case. Talking to some
you're
people
dumping
around
a
the
late
league,
third, you're not going to get an early second next year.
I think every team would like to move some draft capital from 26 to 27, and you got to have somebody willing to come the other way to make it happen.
Wes, I don't think we've talked about this at all, but I think it's more likely they move from 53 or wherever they pick in the second up to 40 than they move from 21 to 17. It'd be a lot less expensive. You might get your cake and eat it too with the receiver alignment situation with a pick at 21 and 40, and maybe it only cost you a fourth or a late third, or someone throws in a fifth next year or whatever. I just think you could end up with two guys with similar grades.
Yeah, I think that's – and the Steelers have, I would say, been pretty good under Omar Khan at finding those guys that are falling down the board and getting themselves in position to meet them where they are. And I think that, that to me is like his hidden skill as a general manager.
I think he's really good at it,
Is that he's very good at understanding how the rest of the league is going to value players and find the value picks. And so Yeah, absolutely. They may not even have to get very far up from that 53 pick to get a guy that we're talking about as a borderline first-round player.
I could absolutely see that happening, and I've been thinking about it more and more just the last 48 hours.
All right, Alan, we did it. We made it over 10 minutes into this segment without asking you about Aaron Rodgers. But now, now we have to ask you about Aaron Rodgers. Any change in what Mike McCarthy had to say this morning in your mind? Do you have any timeline on this, or is this just one of those we got to wait and see and we won't know until we know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Steelers are pretty clearly planning on him being their quarterback. I don't think they're really – I mean, I'm sure they're doing some due diligence, but I don't think they're in any hurry on those other ideas. I don't think there's anybody else out there that's worth putting a hard deadline on for. And really, I mean, I know that Art said earlier this week that he expects to know by the draft. It's not like they're going to change their draft plans whether they've already signed Aaron Rodgers or not.
They're not going to like Ty Simpson any more or less.
They're not going up to get Mendoza.
No one other than Mendoza, and honestly, maybe not even Mendoza in this draft class should be playing this year, in my opinion. So it doesn't it's a completely separate conversation. Really, until you start missing OTA sessions, nothing really matters. So, I mean, to me, that's the first time that it becomes an issue.
Yeah, and I think I've asked every one of our guests for the last week or so this exact same question, because I always preface it the same way. I can make a really strong case yes, or I can make a really strong case no. The 3rd to 5th round quarterback pile, the Becks, the Nussmeyers, I mean, Uhler, whoever you like. Should you even bother, or are you a yay or nay on that?
Well, I think there are about maybe 3 guys that I think are down there that have traits that are worth taking a flyer on.
I keep going back to Cole Payton.
I think if you don't have upside, it's not worth just drafting a guy who's probably a backup. I would not do that.
Yes, I agree.
I think there are a couple guys.
That's my problem with Beck.
Yeah, I just don't think Beck has the physical tools. I think Uhler does. I would take him, but maybe not like he's mostly mocked in like the 3rd round. Feels a little rich for me, but I think he's at least like a gamble worth taking. Peyton is interesting. I'm not sure he's actually very I didn't love him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was just okay.
He doesn't throw the football great.
No. And I think Taylon Green is interesting because just he's such a good athlete that, you can run the tush-push with him and you can do some Taysom Hill stuff with him, and maybe it never works out. But if you're talking about a 4th or 5th round pick and that's all he becomes, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But I just I don't think they necessarily need like a body.
No. I mean, that probably means that Rudolph gets let go if you do that, or in some
Well,
capacity.
I mean, and how many of those guys are going to be better than Mason Rudolph?
Probably
half,
none
maybe.
immediately.
Yeah, none immediately, and maybe half ever. So, to me, that's not a. I mean, hearing Mike talk, I think they're going to try to draft one, but
seems that way.
I don't see that there's like this pressing right. I think my mock drafts, I've kind of gone back and forth where some of them I'll have one and then some of them I don't.
I am really exactly on the fence. Like you might get Dak Prescott or Purdy. I mean, you might.
Yeah.
But you've no way of knowing but trying. But I can't say I'm doing cartwheels over the idea either. And that's taken away from reps that Rudolph's going to get or Howard's going to get.
Yeah, but not if they're just coming at the expense of Rudolph, because he's probably going to get reps too. I don't know. I think the Howard thing is interesting. Mike very, strongly stating his case today for why he thinks Will Howard has the traits to be a future starting quarterback. But also,
you believe that?
I mean, I do.
It seems a little over the top to me.
Yeah, I believe it because he's given us some background at least for why he thinks that now. Said yesterday, he gave this long sort of diatribe about playing in cold weather, and there's certain things that he wants, and he wants size, and he wants arm length and hand size. Will's hand size, I think, is pretty average, but he's a tall guy. He's a big guy, long arms,
he's a physical
tough,
presence
strong,
at least.
right?
Yeah.
Like he played in the cold in college, and so you can kind of see him checking those boxes in the way that Mike described. So I kind of buy it, but I think they're also like. It's two different. It's one thing to say he has starting quarterback traits. Okay, fine. like it's also like a 2% chance. Maybe you want to find out about that 2% chance. Maybe you're intrigued by it, but I think they're also realistic enough that, hey, take another shot if you can. Like it's not like this is some kind of sure thing.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting conversation.
Alan, last one I've got for you is Mike McCarthy kind of saying the right things and in positive conversation about Caleb Johnson and Roman Wilson. Which of those two do you think has the better shot to carve out a role under this new regime?
Ooh, that's a tough way to phrase that. I'm not overly bullish on either of their chances as we sit here right now. Caleb just feels very boxed out of reps. Like, I don't know where the opportunity comes. He pretty much needs somebody to get hurt at this point. And I think
there's at least more roster spots at the receiver position.
And I think he will run the ball very, very well when he finally gets an opportunity to do so. I have never had a doubt about Caleb Johnson's ability as a ball carrier. Pass protection, route running, his hands, I have questions. Obviously, special teams didn't go great last year. But I think if they needed him, if somebody gets hurt and they need him to go have, 5 to 10 carries a game, I think he could be very good in that role. Roman Wilson, I don't think is a very good fit for this offense. He doesn't really do those multiple things that Mike McCarthy was talking about. I think he would best be pigeonholed as a slot receiver somewhere. And I think his traits that he brought to the table, the things you saw at Michigan that made him the draft pick that he became, is toughness, physicality, run blocking, ability, willingness to go over the middle. But he is not this sort of precise route runner technician that you associate with a West Coast offense slot receiver. So I think this scheme is going to be a worse fit for him. But I do think there is always a sort of, and Mike had a great quote about it. He said it's the Catholic operation.
Yep.
Say 3 Hail Marys, and the priest absolves you. And
your slate is clean.
Yeah, you get a clean slate. It's like, I think that's true, but like I don't know where the role comes from for either of those guys. Really, I think Roman has a bigger opportunity. Obviously, there's just much less depth at wide receiver.
I have one last thing for you. Like, I'm going to assume, especially with the number of picks they have, they're going to draft at least one defensive back of some shape, size, or whatever. Free safety, strong safety, nickel, big corner, outside guy, small nickel, big nickel, whatever. What style do you think they're looking for first and foremost to add to the secondary?
I really don't know. I mean, I think a
lot of this is what do you do with Ramsey?
I think the signing of Jamel Dean tells me that they want to play man-to-man. They want to have the ability to play man-to-man.
With size.
And I think they probably don't have anyone, certainly don't have anyone long-term, and I don't even know if they have anyone in short-term, that you can say, okay, go in the slot and cover Zay Flowers man-to-man. To me, that's the thing they're lacking. I also think it's a really good slot corner draft.
Yeah.
I really like the day 2 guys that are slot corners. And so to me, that feels like the biggest thing that they don't have that will be.
And then you'd think Ramsey becomes more safety first?
Well, I just think for this year, it could be a small role. It could just be, hey, you're the nickel when we're playing Baltimore because it's Zay Flowers. And then when you go play –
Patrick Graham is very week to week.
And when you go play somebody else who plays all 12 personnel and it's a 6'5" tight end in there, okay, then maybe it needs to be – forget Ramsey. Maybe it needs to be Deshaun Elliott, whatever, But
Brisker, right, yeah.
It could be a small part at first, and then you see how things go. And then, hey, if it's a young guy who looks like he's deserving more playing time, then sure, you can let Brisker walk away and you can move Ramsey to safety full time. But I think that's an area where that's the one thing in the secondary I really don't think they have where you feel really good about, okay, like man-to-man in this situation. They kind of have all the other boxes checked.
Great stuff with our buddy Alan Saunders. Make sure you're checking out all his coverage this week and always SteelersNow.com. Thanks for taking the time, dude. Appreciate it.
Thanks, fellas.
Don't melt too much out there on us now, all right?
I'll try.
2 more segments to go for our league owners meeting coverage. We will continue. We'll get to some of your tweets and some of the final proceedings of the day. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. It is our penultimate segment here of our league owners meeting coverage. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson inside the Biltmore. You know the drill. Phoenix, Arizona. here, our final hour of coverage. It's been a fun few days, and we've had some great guests and some great conversation. We've touched on a lot of different bases here, Matt,
we have
today. Steelers stuff, national stuff, league stuff, draft stuff. I always enjoy these type of events where we get to go over and kind of cover so much different ground. And you told me you had some more draft stuff, some Todd McShay stuff that you wanted us to discuss here before we depart Arizona.
So I firmly believe that this is a weird year for the first round, especially the first half of the first round. The lack of great premium positions or a multitude of obvious first-round quarterbacks. I mean, there's not a lot of blue-chip dudes. I think there's less surefire first-rounders than any other year. And I've been thinking very much along the lines of how's the NFL going to respond to that? And I was listening to, I mentioned McShay because, frankly, the way he put it was better than the way I put it, because I've been thinking the exact same thing, that after Mendoza goes, of course, and whatnot, I think the league is just going to be happy finding quality players at the next premium positions.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, again, I think there's one quarterback that's guaranteed to be a first-round pick. Simpson will figure it out or whatever. He's a wild card. I still think the tackles are going to go. I still think the edge, defensive end type guys are going to go.
Yep.
Because they're just the hardest positions to find.
Cornerbacks.
Yeah, but especially those two. And Todd really put it out the same way. And he said, I've been talking to people in the league, and he thinks that a league-wide trend will just be like, get me a quality starter for 4 or 5 years that's cheap at defensive end and tackle so I don't have to pay one, even if they don't turn into Bosa or Penei Sewell or whatever.
Sure.
Just give me the best move economically. And it's a pretty good draft to do that in the first round. There's a lot of these edges, and there's definitely a lot of these tackles that, again, aren't Bosa or Alt, but they're going to go in the first round. And with Todd, and why I say Todd said it better than me, was he started laying out the names, and we could pull up any list, Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 or whatever, and frankly, I don't even care about the names. But I think he's certain that there will be at least 13 edges and tackles combined.
Okay.
And maybe as many as 15. Probably between 13 and 15, those two positions added together. T.J. Parker, etc.
Mm-hmm.
One of those positions, the Steelers want all of them to fall. Blake Miller's not a name we mentioned. But he's going in the first round. He's a tackle. Maybe it's not at the very beginning of the first round.
The kid out of Clemson, yeah.
Kid out of Clemson. But if you pull up Todd's top 6 or 7 tackles, he thinks they're all going in the first round. If you pull up his 6 or 7 edges, just give us the names if you don't mind. You're looking at them now.
Yeah, so obviously Arvell Reese, David Bailey, Francis Mauigoa, Reuben Bain Jr., Spencer Fanu, Monroe Feeling, Akeem Messidor, Keldrick Falk. We've talked about all those guys.
Yep.
T.J. Parker, Blake Miller, Caleb Lomu, Gabe. It's Akis, right?
Yeah, I think that's the first name that's not guaranteed to be a first rounder. I think all those other guys are definitely going.
Overall, Zion Young, Cassius Howe, Caden Proctor, Maxie Nachor, Malachi Lawrence. I mean, he's got all those guys are in his top 50 of his big board that I just named. Every single one of those guys. And then R. Mason Thomas, 51. I mean,
so side note, Todd, he gets a lot of information, and he said he thinks the Browns are infatuated with Proctor.
Okay.
And might even take him in the top 10, let alone if he gets to their second pick.
Their sixth pick.
Right. So you can get pretty easily to 15 when you combine those two positions. And here's where I'm going with this. There's only 32 picks in the first round. If 15 of them are edge and tackles, Mendoza makes it 16.
Jeremiah Love, 17.
Love, 17.
Caleb Downs.
I was just going to go stay on offense.
Okay.
Guard out of Ione.
Yep. Venga Ioane.
That goes
out of Penn State.
17? Is that where we're at?
Yep.
Sadiq.
Yep.
18. Tate.
I think so.
Is an obvious. He's definitely going
around.
In the top 19. 20. And I'll come back to receiver in a minute. That's why I'm doing this whole conversation. So we're already in 19 names with those two positions in offense. I don't know that there's a defensive tackle that's guaranteed.
I would be shocked if there was one that goes in the top 20.
Me too. The edge guys were already off the board. But Styles is going.
Yes. Downs is going.
Maybe another linebacker.
Perhaps.
But probably not. Styles is for sure. Does that get us to 21? I lost
21,
count.
yeah.
Okay. Downs gets us to 22.
Or sorry, no, I was including Styles and Downs. Sorry, because that was 20 and 21.
Thielman's going to go in the first round.
Yes, he is.
Maybe the Toledo dude. That gets us to
Emmanuel McNeil-Warren.
Yeah.
Yep.
That gets us to 23 or 24. I lost count. I've been bad about this exercise. McCoy's definitely going now.
Yes.
Delane's definitely going now.
Yes.
Maybe corner 3. I'd be shocked if there's only 2 corners drafted in the first round. So where I'm going to this is I have not talked about, quote, the other receivers not named Tate yet. Mm-hmm. And I've already got to like 27 or 28 definite first-rounders, which then tells you if you pull up just his receiver board or any receiver board and you only take Tate out of the equation, there's like a dozen awesome ones left. Yeah. So that's kind of what I've been thinking with the Steelers is everyone knows that I've been leaning in a vacuum. I would take O-line at 21 over wide receiver at 21, unless one is a much better grade than the other, of course.
Sure, but just
in a vacuum.
In a pie-in-the-sky scenario.
Right. Give me one of those tackles that everyone's coveting, and we know one of them will be there at 21.
Yes.
It probably won't be Freeling, or I don't even care which one it is. I mean, I ain't sure it is.
There will probably be more than one at 21.
Yeah. And then the first round ends on Thursday, and maybe there's only 2 or 3 receivers off the board. But there's still like 9 more that you would love that you can just hang there at 53 and maybe get the one that falls to you. Or what I mentioned before, scooch up like 6 picks and get the one you want. I mean, like, if you look at it through that lens,
it's very doable.
It's very doable to get 2 guys that maybe you would even consider at 21 or at 28 if you traded down or whatever. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be Ian Chor or whoever my favorite one is. It's just the way that's what these teams do. Would you rather take Boston there and see what's left at O-line?
Or would you Pistonis,
or would you take Fanu or
and then see what's
Proctor,
left, see what's left in the wide receiver crowd.
And think, and Alan mentioned this too. Omar's so good at knowing what the league covets. But so much of it comes down to money. Teams are going to take edges and tackles because you can't get them, and
they're
you can't get them.
They're cost controlled for 4 or 5 years.
If everybody in the first round is kind of the same, just give me an edge or tackle.
Mm-hmm. Give me the positions of value.
Thus, receivers should fall. They should be the position that falls.
I am.
That's the bottom line of all this.
That's the bottom line of all this.
I did all this like math and blah blah blah. And
well, you showed your work. That's what teachers always want you to do in school is show your work. Right?
Then you draw the line under, and the answer to this whole segment is receivers should fall. So get them.
Which would be a great outcome.
I hope the Steelers see the same way.
If that's your Oppenheimer equation for this entire draft,
right.
Is E equals MC squared. That's Einstein, not Oppenheimer. You get it.
Yep.
Just let me go. Science wasn't exactly my bag. The end result is distilled down to wide receivers fall down the board. Maybe you get to pick 21, and Tate is the only one off the board. Or maybe Tate and one other.
Or something.
Yeah.
Right. There's 2 gone. But there's still 14 you like or 12 you like to start.
So do you leave that on pause and take the offensive lineman?
You check that box because it's going to be harder to find.
Or do you go, but look at the high-end wide receiver we could nab right now
that's
won't
also
be there at
another
53.
thought. You might get wide receiver 3 at 21 where you thought that was no chance. So if you're in love with, he mentioned Tyson. Yeah, he likes Tyson. Okay, fine. But the more you lay it out, economics rule this league so much,
and especially with the Steelers' current general manager.
Exactly.
That's where he cut his teeth in this business.
And I think he's going to have a feel for where these guys go. And the way that Todd laid it out in the podcast I was listening to, I'm like, this really benefits the Steelers.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes a ton of sense. And I'm glad you kind of gave me a, hey, when we were doing as we always share.
I didn't want to wait till Friday to have this conversation because it's fresh on my mind.
Or these, these very extensive our pre-production show meetings that are very extensive and very detailed. You nudged me in the ribs this morning, and you go, hey, at some point today, let's talk about this Todd McShay thing.
And you have no idea what I'm even talking about. I'm like, just give me a segment. We'll figure it out.
I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. But I hope I laid that out for our viewers
that makes a ton of
why
sense.
you do it, the order you do it, and why the rest of the league could really play into your hand.
And we have talked a lot about how it is not the perceived as the strongest draft class,
right.
In recent history. But there's a lot of tackles. There's a lot of edge rushers.
Yeah, you want the edges to go.
That's the
you want to be
other than quarterback. Those are the two most valuable positions.
Yeah, and you want to be shopping in that. You're probably going to add a offensive lineman of note, and there's a lot to pick from. There's a lot of edges, and you want them to go. Especially before you become in the market for your second position. And they will, because they always do.
Real quick.
History shows tackles and edges just don't last anyway.
Exactly right. And so let's assume that that's going to be the case again.
Mm-hmm.
And pick 21 rolls around.
Yeah.
Would you be gung-ho to go and get wide receiver 2 or 3? Would you say –
I still would rather take the O-lineman.
You'd still rather take the O-lineman?
Unless the grades are – unless they're in two different tiers.
Sure, of course.
If they're in two different tiers, great. You're happy that guy's – the higher tier player is still available. That's easy.
And then you'll say we're still going to get a wide receiver that we really like at 53.
Yeah, or 42.
Sure, 46.
Two or three of them go at the beginning of Friday, and you're like, I don't like the way this is going. I'll dump one of my third rounders and go get Cooper, who happens to be their 36.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he didn't go in round 1 like everyone thinks he was. That I guess that's also part of when you draw the line at the end of the equation. A lot of these mock drafts have Cooper and Concepcion and guys I like a lot.
We've seen some that have had 6 wide receivers in the first round.
That's not going to happen. I believe now that's not going to happen.
When you lay
it's
it out
going to
the
be
way you
closer to
just
3 than 5. Just because you get to 32 pretty quick.
You sure do.
Downs is going. Thieleman's going. Ione's going. Not to mention
Mendoza.
If 15 edges and tackles go, that's half the first round. You know what I mean? I mean, there's only 32 going.
And some of those will go after 21, but still.
Of course.
If 12 of the 15 or 11 of the 15
are in the top 20,
are in the top 20,
right?
And that'd be a good place to be for Steelers.
Downs and Styles and Mendoza and Love are going to be one of them.
Locks, absolute locks.
And what's his face?
Venga.
I don't know if he's a lock before 20, but the wide receiver from Ohio State is.
Carnell Tate.
Tate's definitely is,
And I'm starting to think Jermod McCoy and Mansour Delane are as well.
Yes, and they don't hurt you. You're not counting on them being there.
It's a good place to be. We are what?
I hope it made sense. Yeah,
it totally made sense, and we're 23 days away from seeing how that will potentially all play out. We've got to take our final break here. When we return on the other side, we will ride this thing out with your questions, your comments, your concerns, your reaction. It'll be the X-Twitter segment, as our buddy Dale Lawley would have called it, and that will be our final proceeding here from inside the Biltmore in Phoenix, Arizona. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson, of course, on location for the NFL League meetings. It is The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. It is our final segment here from our, March home, Matt, right?
I suppose, yeah.
End
of March,
If Indianapolis is our February home,
okay,
and Latrobe is our summer home,
there you go.
I guess this is our spring break home.
We definitely have a summer home.
We certainly do. It's Sharky's.
These are vacations.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is spring break.
This is spring break.
It's been a nice little spring break. Man, it's been a lot of fun. I know we've said that a bunch of times.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's a different vibe.
Since it's our last segment, I'll just reiterate it one time because this is my first time doing this. As I kind of shared with you, this was like the last thing in the NFL calendar for me to check off in terms of things that I've done.
Yeah.
Done the combine a bunch of times, training camps. I think we went over this conversation. I've been to now 23 of the 30 NFL stadiums.
That's pretty cool.
I've done international games. I got to do a Super Bowl and Radio Row and all that when I was with the Eagles back in 2018. But I have never in my, let's see here, total, it has been 11 years working in the NFL, between 3 with the Eagles and 8 with the Steelers so far. I had never done an owners meeting, and this was pretty stinking cool.
Yeah. I think I kind of laid it out to you, but it's hard to explain. I mean, even like when Dale would explain it to me, or other folks, and you spend a few days here, and it is just a different vibe. It's not nearly the hustle and bustle of the combine, but there is a lot of action and things happen while you're here, rule changes and whatnot, And
they, not that they treat us poorly at the combine, but they treat you like the prom king here comparatively.
It's way better here in terms of service and whatnot.
There's just food, and we've
you can't even get like water. At
we've
the
shared
combine,
these stories before. For us to get just a bottle of water at the combine is like a 15-minute round trip walk,
right,
which you can't really do during a 4-minute commercial break.
Exactly.
So here, man, there's coffee and drink and food everywhere. They treat you very well. The dinner last night, the the swag bags of all kinds of Nike
Yeah,
and New Era stuff.
It's upper class.
It is certainly. I feel like a 1%er. I'm going to walk around with my pinky up the rest of the day here until we leave tomorrow. But before we close down the day's proceedings, you all know how we end things this time of year. Let's get to some of your questions, comments, concerns, reactions, of course, on X, on Twitter. The X Twitter, as Dale would call it, at Williamson NFL, at Wesley Uhler is where you can participate with the show today, tomorrow, all the time, whenever you want to. Ian, although not tomorrow because we won't have a show tomorrow. We'll be traveling.
True.
Ian tweets and says, gentlemen, hope you're enjoying the dry heat down there in Arizona. On the Pat McAfee show, Mike McCarthy said that they were planning on going to 6 pro days but only made 1. Does this bother you at all for the overall draft process?
First I heard that. Not really.
Yeah, I don't know if it bothers me. I mean, I wish they could have gone to as many as they wanted to, but
yeah, that doesn't mean no one was in attendance.
Exactly.
I mean, they could have had area scouts there, quarterback coaches.
Which I'm sure they did.
I'm sure they did.
When he says they, he probably means him and Omar. I would
that's what I was going to say. I'm not sure who he exactly means by that. Couple notes. I don't know if everyone knows this, but all the pro days are videoed and sent to every team, so you can watch everything that happened there. You can't pull back the curtain and chat with people and learn some things here and there if you're not there, obviously, or see your buddy and be like, oh, what do you think of this Ty Simpson guy?
Sure.
Or whatever, I mean, so I guess there's a little bit lost in that. But again, I'm sure somebody was in attendance, but I guess there's more cachet if it's the head coach and GM there. I assume Ohio State was the only one.
I would think so.
I thought Georgia was one that they were talking about. I don't know. I'm guessing on that. However, what always blew me away over the years was the Steelers were so well known for taking guys out to dinner the night before their combine.
That was the Mike Tomlin thing.
And I never knew how they pulled it off. Like, how do they take 6 Michigan dudes out to dinner when the 31 other teams are like, hey, I'd like to do that too?
Because they'd all like to go dine with Mike Tomlin.
I guess. And I'm sure some of them went from the Steelers one to the Bears one or whatever too, and maybe just didn't eat or had dessert or whatever.
Dessert at one place.
Shook a hand or whatever. But still, if you're taking several dudes out, like I know the Iowa one with like Jack Campbell and those guys, you had 4 or 5 of all the top picks. Are the Steelers losing that? I have no idea. I never knew how it worked to begin with or how they pulled it off to begin with.
Some of that behind-the-scenes stuff that
there's definitely advantages.
Oh, there certainly is.
Scouting is, private investigating in some way,
But as you mentioned, there is so much video and information readily available in this modern era as well.
Now, you're going to see every throw and every route and every, test.
Result and all that
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Adesso tweets us and says, okay, guys, let's talk off-ball linebacker. After this season, only Peyton Wilson and Carson Bruner are under contract. They've had numerous contact with prospects in the draft. If you read the reports, especially top ones, Tony Pauline has said they love C.J. Allen, and they were at the Georgia Pro Day. Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. I know most fans and maybe even you guys probably wouldn't want to draft a linebacker in round 1, but I think it's at least worth a discussion because I think it's plausible and certainly plausible in their top 100 picks. Well, definitely in the top 100. You've got 5.
Yeah.
You've got 5 of those. I think I'd be shocked if it was in round 1. But everything you say is correct about the quality of. That's one of the positions that if you ask people to list the strengths in this draft, that comes up quickly.
It does, and there are multiple round 1 options. And Michael knows the stuff. He tweets us all the time. It's an odd conversation because let's say you would go round 1. Would you then field offers for Queen?
I think you would almost have to.
Yeah, I think you'd almost have to if you go that deep in. What if it's round 2? Then maybe you just play it out and have a bunch of guys there and one of them's a really good special teamer, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
I definitely think you're drafting one, and I think the 3rd round's probably when you'll really start to talk about it or a slight trade up or something like that. But I don't know, I guess, is the answer. I mean, a lot of these questions, rarely do I answer, I don't know. But there are a lot of them. I would bet everything I have just about that they draft a off-the-ball linebacker, probably in the top 4 rounds no matter what, which is 7 picks. I can't imagine there being 6 more needs more than linebacker.
No.
I just tend to think it might be next year's project, And it doesn't mean you can't re-up Queen.
Sure.
You know.
Sure. Hopefully, especially if new look, new outcome for him in Patrick Graham's defense.
Yeah,
he might have an outstanding season.
And Wilson's not under contract much longer either.
No, this is his last year. Yeah.
He's good
for Wilson and Bruner. Sorry, have one more year.
One more, yeah. They'll be back a year from now, but then they're up.
Yes, this
and
time.
Bruner's a different beast.
He's
not. You don't even count on him to be a linebacker.
Yeah. Another one of our regulars, Sudesh, tweets us and says, I can't help but think that Cleveland proposed that 5-year trade rule so they could try and get more first-round picks for Myles Garrett.
Maybe. It's still, you get plenty in the next 3 years.
They will if they decide to move Myles Garrett, they'll have plenty of first-round picks, I think. Jimbo Dean tweets us and says, hey, guys, P1 here. Hey, everybody's a P1, baby. I love it. He said, I was just able to do a mock draft. Ended kind of similar to the one that you guys did last week with trading back a few times. I was able to get Philly's 2027 second-round pick and the Jets' 2027 first-round pick. That may be unrealistic, but would you take it or go fish? I'll tell you this right now.
Well, those two things are pretty attractive.
I would be willing to do pretty much anything to get the Jets' first-round pick for 27 and an Eagles second-rounder as well.
Yeah, and I don't know what he ended up with. I'm not looking at it.
He ended up with Max Ian-Achor at pick 33 in the second round.
Okay.
Being the Steelers' first
I mean,
pick.
that sounds wonderful. I mean,
sure.
The most valuable asset is the Jets' first-round pick next year. I mean, that's almost guaranteed a top 10 pick. It might be one. They're not going to trade it no matter what.
I don't think so.
There's no chance. I mean, I think that's too unrealistic.
But I would
no way the Jets are moving their first-round pick in any way, shape, or form.
I do think it's unrealistic, but I would definitely be into it if that was a possibility.
I mean, the Jets' first-round pick next year is worth more than 21 this year.
Michael tweets us and says, it seems as though Dylan Cook is a restricted free agent next offseason. Does that alter any thoughts about needing to draft that position? I don't know, Michael, if you listened to the show yesterday, but we kind of actually dug into this a lot, what you would do with Dylan Cook and Spencer Anderson. We did that on the show yesterday, and how we talked about now might be the time to extend those guys. They get a well-earned pay bump in a career where they haven't made a ton of money.
Yeah.
It gives you some security going forward, but it also doesn't – you're not marrying them with a massive contract at the same time. It just gives
and it doesn't prohibit you from drafting one high
exactly
or
right.
trying to go over them. Or what, you have one too many offensive linemen? That's not the worst problem I've ever heard.
That's not a problem at all, I don't think. So we discussed all those things yesterday, but it would not alter our thoughts about the needs in the draft, but we would be very interested in locking up Dylan Cook and Spencer Anderson as well for
I'd like to look into that heavily. Yeah.
Cody tweets us and says, new mock draft rule for you guys going forward. You must take Iowa guard Jennings Dunker on every mock because with a name like that, he is a Yinzer fever dream. Hey, Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. Do you see how he looked in that Iowa uniform?
Right, and he's got the crazy hair, and everybody loves him. And he's a good prospect, but let's not scout on what they look like walking in the room too much. He's not a make-or-break player. But he's probably going in round 2.
Yeah.
He might be a tackle. He certainly could be a guard.
Jennings Dunker. Well, I watched all his tape in a Big Ten. Man, he was good. Mr. Steel City tweets us and says, would you guys say a good comparison for Chris Brazzell is Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Obviously, I don't mean the recent Steelers MVS, but I see some similar traits from his younger Packer days.
Much more talented. Valdez-Scantling.
Brazzell much more talented or Valdez-Scantling?
Yeah, Brazzell is.
Gotcha.
They're both 6'4". They both run really low 4.4 or 4.40 times. But Brazzell's much smoother, much more athletic in every other trait, more explosive, better out of his breaks, better changing direction. Brazzell's closer to Pickens in terms of just things he was born with.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The natural raw ability that you can't coach.
It's really, really high.
Eclectic Genius tweets us and says, show question for Wes, what are the 1s and 2s? And for Matt, our dear Craig Wolfley, RIP, used to speculate that Broderick Jones might be a outstanding guard. What do you think of that for Plan B if he loses the left tackle competition?
It could factor in.
You've brought that up a few times. This offseason.
If your best 5 is Cook at left tackle and Jones at left guard, I would say experiment with it at camp.
I understand you'd be asking him to play, a third different position in 4 years, but I think
he might find a home.
He might find a home. He might really excel. The ones and twos.
Gets them on the field.
The ones and twos is an old name from
people don't know that,
from the turntable days, right, where you had 2 sets of vinyl and you had your mixer, and that was the ones and twos. It's an old DJ term.
Okay.
But now we just kind of use it for producers and the people who are pushing the buttons and moving the sliders and all those different things and hitting the commercials and controlling our microphones. So, yeah, when you hear me say thanks to Nathan on the ones and twos, actually here in a few minutes, I'll say thanks to Brian on the ones and twos, who's been producing for us. That's just an old DJ turntable term from kind of the vinyl mixer era that has been repurposed here for modern times.
I always knew what it meant. I didn't know where it came from again.
Yep, that's where it comes from.
That's like the 411 thing.
Those old
going back an hour or two, yeah.
Today, Matt learned 411 and ones and twos, baby.
I knew what everyone meant when they came up, but I didn't know where it came from.
Listen, you come for the football education, you stay for the life lessons education.
You talk for 3 hours, something's going to come up.
Bridge Burner brings up an interesting point here. The last time there was a replacement ref scenario in 2012, there wasn't the current $30 billion plus of legal wagers placed in the NFL every single season. I can't imagine seriously botched calls are going to be popular in that realm. I think with that amount of money has to have influence on this situation. Do you agree? I think that's a great point.
I think it's a tremendous point, and I also think the word legal is important here, too.
$30 billion
Because let's not pretend that there weren't bets.
Oh, sure. But now it's everything's sponsored by FanDuel and DraftKings, and the leagues have partners, and the teams have partners. And
you might not get your knee broke because of it. You know,
Tony might not be knocking on your door.
All right. But more importantly are the sponsors. I mean, these guys are putting a lot of money into the league, too. So, yes, they want the outcomes of the game to be as proper as possible.
Correct.
More now than ever, I would say.
Correct. RJ tweets us, in your guys' opinions, what are the 3 must-haves for the Steelers by the time the draft ends? Could be positions or capital for next year.
At least a wide receiver of note.
I would say wide receiver of note, offensive lineman of note.
Yes, a left side, left guard, left tackle, something.
And then my third thing might be a safety with some speed.
Yeah, I think that's my third.
I would love to say more draft capital for next year, but again, I don't know how realistic.
You might not be able to pull it off.
I don't know how realistic that is, but what is realistic is
trading a 5th for next year's 4th,
Great.
Okay, but that's not going to get Arch Manning.
It's true.
Right.
Could get you to Lenore Sellers. But no, I'm with you. I think high-end wide receiver, high-end offensive lineman, get me a safety with some speed on the back end in there too. That would be my list here as of today.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Conversation tweets us and says, does anyone have any hunches where the Steelers will open the first week of the season? I have a trip planned to Pittsburgh, rolling the dice, and already booked my hotel for week 1, fingers crossed.
No clue.
I will say, Pirates are not in town that weekend, which helps the chance of it being a home game. The Steelers have also, I think, in like the last decade, only opened the season at home twice in the last 10 years or twice in the last 9 years.
I think that increases their chances.
So I think that's a good dice roll by you, Pittsburgh Conversation.
Yeah, and if worst case scenario you have to come to Pittsburgh and hang out with us, then do that.
That's right. We can share some good spots for you to take in the action. Let's see here. Maddie tweets and says, I know Taylor Green is raw and probably a project, but his tools are very intriguing. Do you guys think the Steelers would have any interest on him using a late round pick?
Yeah, except I think he's going to cost a third.
You think so?
I think somebody's going to fall in love with the trades.
So here's
and traits is an interesting word. He's really big and he's really fast.
Yeah.
But his quarterback traits leave a lot to be desired.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Here's maybe something, Matt, we could do in the back half of the week when we're back at the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about all these quarterbacks not named Mendoza or Simpson.
Okay.
And what's the highest round we think they should or could be drafted in. Does that sound
Okay.
like a fun exercise?
Yeah.
Let's do that
I just think
later
somebody
in the week.
might fall in love with what he does. He's so much different than everybody else.
Totally.
And I'm not paying that price.
Joe tweets and says, with the evolution of NFL terminology, middle linebacker is now off-ball linebacker, outside linebacker is now edge.
Mm-hmm.
Can we look at a new name for tackles? They don't tackle anyone.
Yeah.
He says, how about a protector? How about a mauler? Yeah, you could be left protector, right protector. I get what you're saying, but
I always found it interesting that there's an offensive tackle and a defensive tackle.
At
Right.
least one side tackles actually makes tackles, but that's funny. You guys are funny. Last one here today, and I did this on purpose, Matt. CR, Steeler Nation Chicago, of course. You know, he's a regular caller into SNR and Steelers programming, but he does tweet from time to time, too. He says, my Steeler brothers from another mother, you guys are out in Phoenix. Have you seen Max Starks? Isn't that his country?
Oh, yeah,
It
he
sure
walks by
is.
every couple minutes.
It sure is. We've seen Max. I think we're actually grabbing dinner with Max tonight as well. And you know why I wanted to save CR for last, too, Matt? Today is CR's birthday.
Ah, happy birthday.
March 31st, 1945. CR and I are friends on Facebook, so I got that little, whose birthday it is notification.
Yes.
So what, 81 years old for CR, if I can do the math on that one?
Going strong, it sounds like.
Steeler Nation Chicago, one of our loyalists here on SNR. Big happy birthday to CR. Matt, I think that'll do it for the day's proceedings.
Fine work, man.
I think that will do it for our 3 days. So plenty of people we have to thank. Thanks to Nathan on Sunday and Brian the past 2 days on the 1s and 2s. Jason, Emil, Nate, everybody here on the Steelers video team that's been making this possible for the video element. Of course, to TV for putting everything back together back in Western Pennsylvania. We'll be excited to see TV again at the end of this week.
I think he's missing us.
Get back in the studio with him. And for our guests that we've had here, I hope I don't forget anybody, but we had Jeremy Fowler, we had Mike DeFabo, we had Chris Halleck, we had Chris Adamski, and we had Alan Saunders. I believe those were the 5 that we had here throughout the week. Thanks to those guys for joining us as well. For Matt Williamson, I'm Wes Uhler. Take care, everybody. Next time we talk to you, we will be back in Pittsburgh and back on East Coast time. And as always, you know where to find us. It's on your 24/7 home of the black and gold, Steelers Nation Radio, on the Steelers Audio Network.
What's up, NFL fans? The NFL Draft is finally here. And while you might not know who your team is drafting this year, you do know your watch party's #1 pick, Bud Light. The clean, crisp taste that has all the scouts talking. Guess that's why it's been the group's go-to draft beer season after season. Be sure to order a round for the table before your team's on the clock. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.